Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Are we okay? You can hear me? I would like to call the Economic Development Subcommittee meeting for July 16th, 2025 to order. Time being, what do we got, 5:49. A note to residents, all citizens are welcome to attend the public meetings in person. To view the live meeting remotely, citizens are encouraged to watch the live stream on Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel, or the live broadcast. Tonight we will be on Comcast Channel 8. Is that correct? That's correct, Chris, right? And Verizon Channel 28. 28 or 28? 28. To listen to the meeting remotely, citizens may call in using the information provided below. May call in using the number 1-929-205-6099. To participate in the meeting remotely, citizens may join a Zoom webinar using the information provided below on the agenda that's on the town website. Meetings are recorded and archived by Franklin TV on the Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel, and it will be shown on repeat. Will it be on the government channel on repeat tonight, this one? Okay, it will be on repeat on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. The Zoom webinar details, the ID number is sorry, boy, I can't talk today. That's good. 819-047-63421. Any participant who wishes to speak during the webinar must enter their full name and email address when joining the webinar. All participants will be automatically muted upon joining the webinar. In order to speak, participants will need to select the raise hand function to request to be unmuted. All speakers will be required to state their full name and street address before commenting. Tonight, Councilor Frangillo will miss the first agenda item, but he will be here later. And Gus Brown is on, he's online, I think. He's on Zoom. Okay, right? Tonight we have 4 items on our agenda, so we're gonna get going. The first agenda item is the discussion and recommendation of creating the Crossing Neighborhood Zoning District. So do you take it, or does
Sure.
Amy, you wanna take it?
Yeah.
Jamie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's lovely to be here. So the first item on the agenda is a goal the council has voted on to do this session. Y'all had a meeting about it a couple times over the last several years about the idea of trying to generate a zoning district down in the Crossing neighborhood that represented their kind of unique character, the unique geography. And I think with all of the recent activity down there at the Children's Museum, the potential of accessing the SNET Trail, some housing projects in the Mill Store, some redevelopment, some restaurants that have popped up, both old and new, La Cantina, Jimmy D's, both kind of vintage but also modern. It kind of has that unique flavor, and I think after all of the discussions the EDC has had, in addition to other feedback that we received from individuals in the community, before you tonight is a proposal. It's 6 different technical bylaws, but it really results in the change in the entire district. Really quickly, the big highlights that are the most important for people to know. The map is exactly the same as the current Commercial 1 zoning district, with the exception of, and I'm finding the map here in the packet, with the exception of about a half a dozen parcels or so. And if folks in the packet go to that map of the zoning district, you'll notice there's a couple of parcels up at the corner of East Street and Darling Court that come into contact with Union Street, as well as a few additional parcels down at the cross-section of Arlington and Washington and Union Street. And really those were added into the district at the request of mainly the building commissioner and the staff, because they already have some level of commercial use affiliated with those parcels, like the pizza shop and a few others, maybe some home occupation. It doesn't change the scope of the district very dramatically. And we wanted to, as you know, Madam Chair, because you've been a part of this for many years now, we're just trying to take what was already C1, give it a new name, have the community rally around and kind of talk colloquially about, oh, we're headed down to the crossing, kind of in a term that gives people that little more village feel. If you go to like the town of Falmouth, right, for example, they have like 7 or 8 different T-ticket and down, so they have all sorts of different names. So it kind of gives it that flavor. We also agreed to essentially convey all of the downtown commercial zoning properties that were there and have the same requirements in the crossing district with a couple of notable differences. One, in the downtown crossing, the council voted last year to take away all minimum mandatory parking requirements for commercial industrial properties so that we could conform with the MBTA communities law. But there's also like 3 or 4 or 5 parking lots in downtown. So the on-site commercial industrial requirement of 1 space per 500 square feet of commercial is still within this proposal. And the main reason there is there's no parking anywhere in the crossing neighborhood. There could be someday. We're hopeful there are. We're working on that. Because if we're able to access the SNET trail someday, there may be some parking availability there. Well, then we'll come back later and get rid of that commercial requirement if we can get some public spaces. But by not having a minimum requirement on site, all of that parking for either residential or commercial is going to bleed out into the streets. That's when you're getting down to cross streets. That's when people are going to start parking in front of houses.
Right.
That's when you're going to get a lot of people upset.
Right.
And so we didn't want to do that. And then the other substantial piece in here is making it so that it's 3 stories maximum for height. So there's no opportunity in the current proposal for a special permit to do a 4th story or a 5th story like in downtown commercial. So those are really the 2 or 3 big changes or differences between downtown commercial and the crossing and the old commercial one in the crossing district. That's generally it. In here, there's a definition. I know the EDC had already reviewed that many, many months ago. It felt like there wasn't a lot of changes that were proposed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
I think
use
Glenn
table is
said
in. I don't think Glenn might have been on that at the time, but there's a use table in here with with primary and accessory uses. We go right down all of them. We took downtown commercial and folded it into this. And so while it is a lot here, I don't think it's as heavy as maybe the paper that's printed out. We printed it out on, so.
There's a lot, but it's not that much.
We've left dimensional requirements the same. We didn't get into all this stuff. We tried to keep it manageable. I think 3 stories is the right height maximum for that neighborhood. It is not downtown commercial. It is different. And I do think the parking requirements, I will note that the current zoning is 1.5 mandatory spaces per residential dwelling unit. We're proposing 1 per residential dwelling unit, just like we did in downtown commercial. So I think this zoning will be highly successful, whatever iteration it comes out at. I think people around the community will like what we're doing, and obviously the town attorney and the town planner here, as well as the building commissioner who was online, if any of y'all have any questions. Or if you want to add any other points, Madam Chair, because I know you know all of everything that's in here.
Well, I wanted, Amy, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Jamie pretty much covered it all. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Gus, do you have anything to add?
Let him in as a panelist.
Yeah,
Oh, he was?
You have to unmute.
he's muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Gus.
Testing, Gus, testing.
I switched over to my laptop, so. And what was the question? I'm sorry.
I didn't know if you had anything to add to Jamie's description about what we're discussing. Or the
Oh, I think-
downtown crossing neighborhood district.
I think it's great that it's been promoted this way, and we just hope that people take action down there in that area. I know some places and some owners have already, even before this bylaw change. But other than that, I think it's a great thing, and looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Jones, do you have any questions, any comments?
Oh, sure. I couldn't resist. Actually, just a couple of historical questions, maybe to Jamie or to Gus or to even Joe, or even maybe even Steve. That area, this particular area, had a economic revitalization some years back. How long ago was that? Because they put the new lights in, they had hoped to kind of energize that neighborhood, and ultimately it kind of, well, it's growing, don't get me wrong, it's growing. But how long ago was that they put those period lightings in, kind of striped the street? I think it actually had a green and Italian type of stripe down that at one point. Was that 20 years ago that they tried to really bring some life to that neighborhood?
They had the sidewalks and some brick
Yeah.
curbing, the lights, cleaned it up.
Mm.
I think there was a few buildings too, also. I
Yeah.
think the barn across the street from the former Agway, I think there was some other properties, but I don't think the town has seen as much revitalization down there up until maybe the last 3 or 4 or 5
Right.
years. I mean, I think what I like about it is, and we talked about this at the EDC meeting you missed,
Yeah.
is we did nothing. And good old fashioned, just general economics has built it to where it is now. Particularly La Cantina, particularly the Children's Museum, particularly Acapulco's.
Right.
That's not to slight any other businesses that are already there. But I think with the mill store being bought out and gonna be renovated, and hopefully, knock on wood, the SNET trail comes through and we close on that, you know, in 5 more years, you know, you're gonna see a pretty cool and vibrant place.
Right. Well, that's
That a lot of people are
the
gonna wanna
hopes.
be at.
That's the hopes with this, and I know it's been some, because it was before my time that they did that area. Probably, well, I was probably here in town at the time, but I wasn't on the council. To help get this neighborhood kind of picked up and revitalized a little bit, I thought that was the hope. But in my opinion, and I think many people can agree with me, one of the things that kind of stymies that neighborhood, and I don't think it's the crossing. I don't think the train, I think everyone knows it's a train crossing and it's a train crossing neighborhood, is the simple fact that there are a whole mishmash of buildings, as well as a slew of power lines and telephone cables and telephone poles that really just distract from that neighborhood. I think ultimately what I'm getting at is it would be keen if we really wanted to push this neighborhood to what would be a future off-center area for the town. We should look into asking what it's gonna take to get many of these power lines and poles underground. You know, just, cause it's never gonna look attractive the way it currently is. And that's the problem, is I think many people look down there, then it looks, for all intents and purposes, unattractive.
We tried that.
So how will making this proposed zoning change help that? Is this gonna allow the neighbors even more opportunity to change their building types to something that's a little bit more appealing?
I mean, I think to me, I think the biggest part is trying to give that neighborhood area some level of the identity, where the zoning and the neighborhood has kind of a name that I think has been used in the past, but maybe not used as much today. Maybe people don't know the history you were pointing out earlier. I don't know if the zoning necessarily changes that are here are gonna expedite some huge amount of development, right? But I will say the landowners down in that area seem to be a lot more progressive thinking about how they're moving forward with their buildings and how they can fit into that
Undoubtedly,
neighborhood.
it's obvious.
And it's very clear that I think giving it that neighborhood structure and feel and verbiage and name will hopefully, and all the businesses that have just set up that are there, you bring more people to that area, you bring more eyeballs, and you're gonna get more ideas, right? And you're gonna get more investment. So I think that's what we're hoping that will happen.
Well, I think, Madam Chair, is that as part of these proposal changes is that we at least inquire. We can't do anything with the road because the road's not up for repair or anything like that for probably another 10 years, right? 'Cause-
Union Street?
Yeah, Union Street in that area. So it's not like if there were an opportunity to ask for funding, which I know the government's not really in the means of giving us any funding these days.
Well,
But
we're gonna try, we're trying to get a meeting with Secretary Augustus and General Manager Eng from the MBTA to come out in September, and some other state stakeholders to look at the neighborhood, deal with a couple of issues that we're having with the T. So I don't know, maybe when they're out here,
Mhm.
we'll make a plug about the road and
well, the
what
road, the
happens.
power lines,
The power lines, all of it, yeah.
infrastructure,
Yeah.
and
the
ultimately,
tracks, obviously, there's some easement issues, all that stuff.
and my next topic, and it's already been discussed, and you mentioned it already, Jamie, is parking, which leads me back to the railroad and the CSX property that's at the corner. And I know that's already on your plate, Jamie, for reaching out to the state as well as CSX, but did we get it nailed down as to who exactly owns this piece of property? Because it's my understanding,
That's the T.
haven't spoken with Aaron and Meg at the museum, that there's still some confusion as to whom definitively owns this sliver right here. Is it CSX or is it
building on there.
the
years
MBTA?
ago. Remember that?
There was a building there?
It was an old building, yeah, when I first moved it was an old rundown
On
building.
Union Street?
Right next to the
next to the
museum,
Agway.
right next to Agway.
So the owner technically is
Oh, yeah,
CSX,
yeah.
but or the New York Rail Company. Here's the issue, though. Oftentimes on that parcel, which may be a case of that, remember, all the rail stuff is regulated by federal law and the federal government. So, as the town attorney and I have been certainly learning through the CSX process, there's just a lot more out there. What I do believe, though, is I believe the T has for lack of a better, a permanent easement on that property, and CSX doesn't do anything with it. The T is the
Okay.
one who uses it.
Okay.
Step one, in my view, is getting the T to stop using that parcel as a staging area with dirt and rocks
It's very
and
unsightly.
trucks. So when the kids show up at the museum and families show up, we wanna make sure the T is aware that, what was there before is not there anymore, and we're gonna be having a lot more pedestrians. Number two, I'm also wanna make sure we work with the T to deal with what's likely to be people parking over there. that
Right.
shouldn't be parking.
Right.
How we're gonna deal with that, and then have the T come in with a load of rocks, dump it there in his car. So we wanna try to work with them to see if there's something we can do. That even if they don't transfer the property and the ownership, which is, as I'm learning with the federal government, is hard to do, at a minimum, try to see if the T can use something else to stage whatever it is they're doing over there. Because if we are able to purchase the SNET extension,
Right.
and that goes through, well then, they don't need any more rocks or dirt for over there. So what is the need? And maybe there's something that MassDOT can work on to get that out there. That's step one, is just clearing out that area. The land ownership issue is a whole nother ball of wax. But let's see how the SNET goes, and then maybe that builds the relationships where we can have some conversations down the line with that parcel as well. But the first thing is making sure that we can use it. And if they would grant us an easement, or an easement to be able to park on that
Right.
for the museum,
That's
that's even better. I do not want to, for the record on camera, not have expectations that that's gonna be soon.
Right.
If we're able to purchase the rail trail, this very well may break the country's record for the fastest acquisition of a rail bed, like world history. Like, this has been really quick.
Sorry.
So,
Glenn has the
so I hope that answers your question on the parcel.
Well,
But it is
I had a
CSX.
sneaky, I just wanted to get on record that this is something that, if it's going to take as long as predicted, then there's no better time than now to try and
Yeah.
push them on this, because
Definitely.
because it's a glaring, obvious fact that it's the best corner in the intersection for several reasons. One is it's got potential for future growth, but it's also a great parking area. It's a great potential municipality use in order to, accommodate some of that public parking that we're hoping to get into this neighborhood so that they can attend the museum, they can go to some of these restaurants, and ultimately be kind of a staging area for the end of the Snet Trail, which is where people will come off of the trail, go down Cottage Street. That could be a great place, kind of similar to the small parking space where Grove Street is, and just be like, hey, this is our trailhead,
That's right.
That's the goal.
That's
you
it.
know?
Sorry.
But,
The
no, I know
trailhead.
it's our goal, but I'm just anxious because, and I know, Jamie, I know the bureaucracy. But,
Well, we've been chopping through it pretty quick, but this is a whole other piece of property that I think CSX and the T probably have some use for.
Yep.
It's a question of what, why, how, and if there's anything that we can do to try to clean it up for the
Look,
children.
Jeff and I looked for plenty of parking spaces for them to put their
Yeah.
trains, we never found anything. This is not even big enough to
Well,
park
now
a car.
we're buying, hopefully the
alone
last spur where
park
they
a
were
train.
thinking about parking a train, and
It's-
obviously the folks on Cottage and Saxon and those neighborhoods don't want
Yeah.
trains parked there.
Right.
Especially in winter.
So my only last question is, why not 4 or 5 stories by special permit? At least have it in the writing by special permit for future use. I mean, there's no reason to limit it, right?
Well,
I mean, because
I
we
mean-
do that with the downtown. We limit it to special permit, if I
Right.
understand it. To the three by right, and then 4 and 5 by special permit.
Other than the mill store, I don't think there's any other building down there that would exceed that. And I think
Yeah,
it's kind of like the parking requirement. I think all of these things we're talking about kind of have to develop first, I think. And then down the line, you may be able to say, come back and say, maybe we should get rid of the commercial parking requirement. Maybe we go to 4 stories. I also think there's just generally, we were trying not to disrupt the neighborhood in a way that would get people upset that somehow there's this motive of density and that's not really what the character of the neighborhood is. We saw that in the citizen survey where people really prioritize, neighborhood character at a high level. Doesn't always necessarily mean height. But also you have smaller parcels down
right.
there.
No, that's very noticeable.
And so you've kind of like, to figure out how to get parking and all the other pieces for a 4th or 5th story is probably gonna be a little more challenging than downtown.
Understood. Which, ironically, this section seems to have very similar issues as the downtown, where you've got a lot of property owners who abut each other, in whom to turn it into any kind of usable size of a lot, you would have to buy up several lots to do it.
Right.
It's just crazy. But that's my only real last point.
That's also a discussion for you guys here and at the council level, right? And the planning board, when they go to have a public hearing, if people really want a higher, height, I mean, that's
Right.
up to you guys.
Okay. Other than that, I think it's great. Just anything to kind of help get this moving forward.
Put it on the map.
Is a, thank you. I thought I had the hokey jokes too.
That was bad.
Beat me
That
to
was
it.
bad.
That was
Well,
good.
you
That was
guys
a
are
good
like-
dad joke.
You guys are scaring me.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor Sheridan,
Yeah.
you had a question?
In all seriousness, how do you put it on the map? It's sort of like if you
So
put
it
in,
will be its own zoning district
Yeah.
with its own color.
so it'll come up in the GPS
Just
and
as you
everything?
see it.
And
yeah.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. So
Yeah.
then, like any neighborhood, you kind of want to say, hey, go meet me here. Or,
Yeah.
we're meeting in this area. Or why don't you go down there? Or did you hear what came in the cross? So you're trying to build a narrative.
Yeah.
And I think, so literally on the map, it'll be a different
Yeah.
district and a different color. But then you're right, on the GPS or on Google or in the zoning code.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's now a definition. There's now, most of what's here, by the way, is just us changing from C1,
Yes.
commercial 1, to the crossing
doesn't
neighborhood
match the
district. So most of the changes that are in most of these pages are just changing the name. But I think changing that name and putting a definition puts it in our zoning code as a kind of unique and special area.
Now, how can we put a sign up?
You could put, well, that's a whole nother,
Yeah.
that's another issue down the line. I would imagine, this is like other decisions for other days,
Yeah.
but do you, at some point, are you eligible in that neighborhood for a historic district? You've brought it up in many others. You could have a downtown historic district, you could have a crossing neighborhood district, you could have 5 different neighborhood
Yeah.
historic districts, each with different regulations and different character pieces,
Yeah.
right? Like, they could all be different. That's all a lot.
Lines up
Um,
the mission.
But with that comes, when you have a historic district,
You put beside with
you-
history.
yeah, the town would do a design on something similar to a wayfinding, but it would be
Yeah.
just entering, and you see these all throughout Massachusetts in
Yeah,
different communities,
you
right?
do.
You're
Yeah.
entering the neighborhood of T-Ticket, right?
Yeah.
Entering the village of, Newton Falls or whatever.
Yeah, Newton really does it.
They do a lot.
They
of
have like
that
real lines entering the village of, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's probably on a map.
Well, that
It's
is-
a parcel, and then they.
It's like entering a new town.
But you also have
Yeah.
to get easements
Those
from
are
the private
villages.
property
What?
owners.
Those
to
are
put those
villages.
signs up.
I know,
Yeah.
but it acts like you enter a new
Yeah.
town when you go to Newton.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, I
actually have
think
lot,
that's getting
yeah.
closer to along
Yeah.
the lines of longer term where we wanna try to go.
Another thing too, long term, would be nice to get some green space maybe.
Green space, well, that's, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a design decision
Yeah.
at some point, on the rail bed. I mean, you
Even
don't
a
have to
playground?
have the trail start right on Union Street. My guess is it's gonna be parking, a trail kiosk,
Yeah.
probably some marketing. You could have some green space up front and not make it right into the rail bed right away. These are issues we have to work on with DCR after closing.
So is the plan to buy all the way up to the street?
We don't even have that all
Yeah.
planned yet.
Cause does the paint company use it anymore? They used to.
That's a good question if they use it, but,
Yeah.
I don't know about entrance over Saxon. A
Yeah.
lot of that's gonna,
Okay,
we didn't wanna,
yeah.
DCR is gonna work with us a little
So what's
more.
and this is the last question, what's like what's the latest on that sale?
You'll find out next month.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
There's an anticipated closing later this fall, and so, we'll be giving an update probably in a couple meetings.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
A lot of people are already using it, you know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
And don't forget, then, if it goes through, then they have to take all the rail bed out.
yeah.
And so there's like, this is gonna take a little time.
That'd take
Yeah.
time.
But still, couldn't ever dream that I'd be sitting here talking about this at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Councilor Sheridan.
Yep.
I'm gonna go back to the bylaw that we have in front of us, the zoning district. I look at this as, a mini downtown commercial. And that's why we stopped at 3 stories. I love the description of what the zoning district is gonna bring and what we're trying to get. I feel like, all of it is really great, but it's the residential part, I think about a lot. I've been thinking about it, and, so there's a couple of things in the use and the schedule of lot, area, frontage, yard, and height requirements, and I think maybe we could just discuss this as a group, because I think this is great, I think it's a big step forward, and then I really hope that we adjust it later on as years to come. But if you look at the crossing neighborhood, on attachment 9, it has 7 there, right? And so the note 7 is the same as commercial 1, and it's permitted residential uses must observe requirements of GR5. And so to me, I feel like it's the crossing neighborhood area is kind of a higher density than what's around it. And so I think eventually, or maybe before sending this to the planning board, like we remove that because, that's right there.
Where's attachment 9?
I just feel like I think if we do this stuff, we want a little bit more denser than a commercial 1, but not as dense as downtown commercial, right? Something in between. So that was one of the things I was thinking a lot about today. Also there's another residential thing, I think it's, attachment 7. Not that I know these things, yeah. So when we think about the Franklin for All project that we had, everybody talked about 3 families, right? And how they wanted the way that neighborhood developed, the historic part of it, like there's like these really cool buildings on Union Street that are 3 stories, 3 families. And I'm like, why don't we so the idea to put this into the use schedule was to allow for three 3-family housing units to be by right. But then so we have that, which is great, but then it also puts a restriction on it for a bigger size lot. And I don't think,
Boy, I'm here. I got the answer
you have the answer.
for that particular issue.
Okay, all right. And so that, to me, I didn't know if we wanted to think about removing that, or if we wanted to wait for planning
We're
board for the
talking about number
hearing.
3, right? No more
There's
than
already a
one
bylaw
dwelling.
in place that addresses that.
The 2?
If you look at the newest zone,
All right, this is Joe Halligan on the.
oh, I'm
you-
sorry,
oh,
Joe Valley.
okay,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. If you look at number 7,
Yeah.
I had this discussion with Brian Tavernier
Yeah.
in February. The new one is of 24. 3-family and mixed use are exempt from the residential 5 and can go with C1, which gives you all those setbacks you're looking for more density.
Okay, but,
That issue you're talking about is specifically written in there.
okay, well, maybe you can show me where it's written, because I don't see it.
Okay. I was an issue I had with Brian back in February, and he said,
Because you've already gone through it.
and he
It's-
said, thanks for catching, now read number 7.
Permitted residential uses may observe requirements of the residential district 5 for residential building only, multifamily with 3 houses, all right, that's different than this one.
That's correct, that's why that's the newest one. And I was going by the old one, and I knew the town had already passed the bylaw on
I thought we had passed the
I thought we
bylaw.
had
that.
too.
So,
That's right.
so anyways, we have the new bylaw here, so we need to,
Well, it's in the 24 book.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, so
Maybe we
then,
should change it
so then that's like,
If that allows the density, you can go right out to the lot.
Should we
line.
change it then, though?
okay, so
In there?
if
Yes,
the
you're right.
if the density is
So-
there, okay, that makes me feel much better, because I thought we did that,
We
so
did,
thank you,
we did.
Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
That's why I was like, I'm kind of confused, but,
So we change it in there then?
and then
Um,
the only thing would be to add, so on the schedule of lot area, frontage, yard, and height requirements, the attachment 9 would be, we either have the same verbiage there, or
we would.
let's do that.
So we're
That
Now
would
that
be-
I'm looking at this, I just think we didn't add it into the version, so I
Correct.
appreciate Joe picking
Yeah,
that up. But
and
that
the-
was approved, and that is not an amendment that you would need to make here.
Okay.
We'll
Because
just
was
stick
never
that
added.
in.
It's already in there, yeah.
It's already in there, so we'll
That's-
update this
okay.
to go.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Also, online, just so you guys know, online, the old accessory dwelling unit thing is there. It all says BA all the way across. Still online. So
That's
when
probably
you go,
true.
On town code?
yeah,
Oh, okay, alright.
yeah. So there's a couple of things that need to get updated. Like, we were thinking alike there, Joe. That's kind of scary, huh?
So we don't have,
But that's good, okay, I wasn't going out of my mind, and,
Nope.
it will be a little bit denser, it'll allow for,
so 3 families. can't
allow
go
for the
up there.
3 families,
Yeah.
especially if we do 3 stories by right, that's a 3-family,
Yeah.
right? And I understand if you go more than that, you might go wider, and then you need to have more space.
I know, we can make it look like the Back Bay, and we can have rooftops that connect and have a party in the roof.
Yeah,
It'd be
like
great.
the southeastern
Yeah, hit golf balls
walkway or
off the roof.
something.
Get a roof
Yeah.
fest.
So I think that was the only thing, my question, and I believe it's answered, right? Is that right, Amy and Gus?
Yeah, I'd have to see it. I know Jamie's got it over there.
Jamie's got it? Okay.
This is language we had before. I think it just was a
Mm-hmm.
oversight in the code. I think what happened was there was a version that we used on this
Mm-hmm.
that didn't include this, because we have too many versions of too many things.
There's a
So, I
time
appreciate
delay,
that, Joe.
there's a time delay
Okay.
between the time that legislation is passed by you
Then it's
and
updated.
it gets incorporated by general code into either the electronic version or even later it'd be a hard copy.
But once it's passed, it's passed.
Right.
Right, okay.
But
That's right.
again,
Yeah.
it can create
Right.
confusion if you're not working off the most current.
Yeah.
We've had this issue arise before in different contexts.
Yeah.
Or we just pick up the phone and call the building commissioner.
Oh,
Right.
okay, yeah.
To the
Yeah.
building commissioner.
Well, I mean,
We'll fix that.
yeah.
Joe had a question.
Joe, Joe, do you wanna,
At the same time, residential 5, I believe, in what you're looking at, wasn't upgraded to the increased impervious coverage. That was all voted on the same night,
right,
and that's not in yours, but it's on that newest version. So if someone's looking at a little older book, it's gonna have the lesser amount of impervious coverage allowed. The new one, I think, went up to 45, I think you guys voted on?
Yes. Yes, or
Yeah.
50, 45 or 50. Okay, all right. So I feel better that I wasn't crazy. And, well, I am crazy, but
So we can't have 3 deckers there.
we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, and you don't need extra, well, it's still, like, we don't need extra space then. We still have the 2, though, no? The 2? All right, let's look at that again. Can we look at that again, everybody?
Sure.
Big attachment nine?
No, that's,
7?
7.
25% greater, is that the number? that's the one
Yes,
you're-
yes, is that also removed? Was
That's
that also
here.
removed?
That's still on.
That's still in the books.
That's still and that's pretty much acceptable. So if you want to increase more lots, the lot has to be 25% greater than a single lot to allow
Right.
more housing.
Right,
It doesn't
so,
limit the housing.
right, so I think it was something we should think about, maybe in the future, or is just to, think about, you know, if you have 3 stories, by right, you can put a 3-family house in there, why do you have to have more space? Because you're just going up.
Right.
Right, that's all it is, you're going up. But maybe it's too complicated, or we can think about it.
Do you have an
Maybe the
idea?
planning board, I just think we should remove it, and maybe, and like anything above 3, you have to have more land.
I'll second that.
How would we write that? Just remove, so if you remove the note,
If you remove the note,
lot area must be 25% greater than that required for a single-family dwelling
yeah, I'm trying to
on
find my,
attachment 7.
What I'm saying is if you
I'll
had
let
a single,
everybody catch up.
if you had a single-family home on
Right.
a single lot,
Yep.
you're not 25% greater, but you can still go 3-family.
Right.
right,
So
Right.
yes.
what's the
Stay
object-
within the
I'm
footprint.
just trying to find what the objective of the idea is, because you can still get the 3-family, which is I think what we all want.
But you need to have a bigger lot.
But you're still gonna need parking, 1 per unit.
So what's a lot size, to get a 3-decker, then what's the size of the lot you need, roughly?
Well, I think it's minimum lot size 5,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah. And not, 625 or something, like 6, I can't find my residential thing anymore, I must have split them all apart.
I would just say that if you wanna make a change,
Yeah,
we should do it now, or no,
Because now you get the kick in C1, it's 1 unit per 2,000 square feet.
right,
So there's a lot more than just changing that little figure.
right,
It's a whole
it's a whole thing. Right.
workshop's gotta be figured out.
okay, all right, well, I think it's something we need to think about, but we don't have to change it now, I just think in the future, that would be something I think we should talk about. And because I feel like this is a great step, and I'm really excited about it, but I feel like it's dynamic, right? And since it's new, we can always change things around, right?
We can also ask the planning board to address this at their public hearing and get to your earlier point, ask them
Yeah,
their thoughts
I would
on
like
it.
to know what they think. I've heard from a couple of the planning board members about this, and they like it.
Yeah.
I just want them to think about that, about changing that, if that's something. That just makes sense, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's not logical, so that's why my brain gets stuck on it.
So we'll ask Amy Love to remind the planning board of this conversation from the EDC meeting and see if we can highlight this point at the planning board public hearing.
Yeah,
Is that fair? Amy, can you do
is that okay,
Mhm.
Amy? Is that okay? All right. Whew. Please come up to the microphone.
Can I use the microphone? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Name and address, or name, I don't, like, whatever.
My name is Maxwell Marangello. I live at 127 Central Park Terrace, and I just want to say I appreciate you thinking forward and putting the first step in this conversation about how we sort of get more densification and affordable housing, and into the downtown crossing by just sort of and making it a destination for folks. And I just want to clarify, this is the first step. I'm hoping there's going to be more discussion about, do we want to have parking like right on the street, or do we want it hidden behind the building where it's less ugly? Because it's just driving down a road and seeing all that parking, it's just ugly. But I had a few things. My first question is about 417 Union Street. It's parcel 2960585, and it's a pink it's not on the list because it's not in there, but it's a little pink island in the map. And I was just curious as to why that was sort of sitting by itself there, if there was a reason for it. And I have some other questions. Do you want me to give everything now, or do you want me to let you answer that question?
Let's do one at a time. Which one was it? Do you know where it is?
It's,
Yeah, it's right at the corner of Washington and Arlington.
Yep.
It's 2 parcels deep. So
Okay.
it's on the left side. I'm going back to my map here.
Washington and Arlington.
It's right, this one right. I think what he's referencing is this one that's in light pink. And the one above it is,
Between the single-family 3?
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I just thought, it's kind of messy, and I mean, right now it's residential, but in the future, it might be, could be a business, or could be a little denser. So I just didn't know if it made sense to,
I noticed that too. So good catch, Max. I do agree with Max, that should probably be part of that.
There was a reason.
Do
So,
Gus or Amy know the
Yeah.
reason?
Do we remember?
Well, I think when we focused on adding those few extra lots, we were just looking at the use. So given that
Right.
this is probably a residential use, is why they kept it in single family 3,
I think we talked about that before.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
No,
we kind of left it in that.
I think we talked about making it, commercial, I think.
Yeah. Gus, do you have if you can talk? He might remember.
Sure.
Yeah, he would remember.
I know that 12 Washington Street is a commercial building. And I don't have the map in front of me, Amy. Did we include that in the neighborhood, in the crossing neighborhood?
It's a
Is there a way to
house.
get the volume up? No. It's cranked. It's cranked? Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's a house.
We
right
can-
now.
we can-
I know that lot.
We're having a hard time hearing you, Gus, so we're gonna figure out what you just said. So,
Alright.
you don't have the map, but you think there was a commercial next to it,
Yeah.
and it was a residential, so you didn't put it in, I think is what.
You're
So
right
So
what you
across
guys
the
12,
street from Pizza Way.
how about now? Can you hear me better?
Not really.
Yes.
Okay. So 12 Washington Street, sorry, was a commercial use in a residential neighborhood. And I believe, Amy, Love, that is part of the neighborhood crossing now, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we also made number 2 Washington Street in the neighborhood crossing as well, correct? Okay. So Max, to answer your question, through you, Madam Chair, I apologize for that. We just didn't feel that that would ever be something that would constitute a commercial building or a commercial use. Now, anything's possible. They could tear down and go to the ZBA and ask for a use variance. That's a possibility. And, it's always on the table, Max. And your concern was that it looks like it stands out like a sore thumb, correct?
well, not only that, but I mean, we could also, in the future, we could be talking about, looking at Union Street as a whole down the road. But I just think that if it's next to something that's going to be dense, why do we stop where we stop?
Because I don't think that it's ever gonna be commercial up that end of Union Street. That was our thought process on
Okay.
that.
Go ahead. I do recall.
Yeah, now, I remember the discussion, so
I remember it.
we decided to make this commercial use, this at the corner.
Was already a commercial use. So,
No, then we added one more at the
So-
corner,
Yeah.
right.
across from Pizza Way.
Correct.
That was not commercial use, now it is.
Correct.
Even though there's a house there.
So the difference is that's at the corner of the 5
Yeah.
corners.
And that looks
When
little-
you get to the parcel that Max is referencing at 417.
It doesn't look as, if you drive by it, it does not look out of place, as this might seem in the map, because there's a house
Right.
farther down Union Street.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
It looks out of place here, but if you drive down the street,
It
it doesn't look out. It makes more sense, Max. If you-
No,
So if
I'm
you-
fine, I just
yeah.
thought I'd mention, I
Yeah.
just didn't know. I did have some other things. The first thing was, I just want to build off of Councilor Jones' comments about making sure that the downtown has a character with regards to the wires and that kind of thing. But I also noticed that there's stuff in the bylaw about the sign design review. And so would this district be added to design review, and would that help improve the character of this district?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's on the.
Sign
it's-
sign regulations.
The
are the
sign,
same.
it is in the, it's added in,
it-
right, don't you, I think Amy
Yeah,
added
it
it.
falls, it would fall under the same rules.
And then I also wanted to,
Special rules.
I appreciate all the work that the master plan committee did, especially Chairman Jones. And one of the things that was in there was talking about trying to make downtown more family friendly. As well as, and you know, because it's sort of extension of downtown, one of the things that actually made it into the master plan was LU 4.7. And that was revisit bylaws to expand use of family-friendly entertainment businesses, including but not limited to an arcade facility. And now, a lot of arcade facilities, you might think of the noisy places where there's, you know, kids crying and everything, but there's actually a very nice facility in Plainville, One Up Games, that seems very nice, very pleasant. We don't have to make it a straight approval, but if it could go to the planning board as a compromise, I think that would be something that we could do to attract more businesses to that area. So I was hoping that
On the list of
I don't
things. I think they took arcades out of our bylaws specifically for the downtown area.
it's in here, it's in the
I
sheet
think
that
it's,
I got.
I
Years
think it's
ago.
on the use.
Are they prohibited?
They're prohibited in the downtown area, yes, but they're not,
There's definitions, Mark,
Right.
there are definitions on arcades, and
That's very nice.
maybe technology has changed, because I
Yeah,
think
it's from the
Pac-Man,
80s.
but
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
folks may think, and older folks may feel different, but we talked about this because the downtown partnership had asked for this, because there was an arcade proposal, but we haven't gotten any details of what the proposal is. Then we heard it was Dean College that wanted an arcade. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to arcades at all. I think they're fun. I think Max is right.
Mhm.
I won't go to them, but unless they have an old vintage Pac-Man. but,
yeah, well, at least a pinball machine.
Or a pinball
Yeah.
machine. Skee-ball would be better. I don't know where you're gonna fit all this, but I don't know where it's located, Max, on the use chart. And Mark, I don't know if you had something about the arcade definition. We've been talking about this quite a bit recently.
Well, we looked at it because there's a certain number of devices that are called automatic amusement devices technically. Certain amount of devices that you can have, it's a small amount, I believe 4 or more becomes an arcade, or is it 5? So, up to 4 you can have. After that becomes an arcade, which is indicated is generally prohibited in all districts, because there was a time period when that was
Distracting.
the issue.
Yeah.
That
just
you
seems
gotta be
very-
concerned- You still
well
have to be
played.
concerned today about unintended consequences. There are other things that are being proposed that might take place in conjunction with that. And
Like
also,
illegal
it's a
gambling.
traffic issue as far as the bigger, you know,
Yeah.
the more you make a place attractive for people to go to.
Isn't that what we're trying, through the chairs, isn't that what we're trying to do? I mean, are we trying to make downtown and downtown crossing attractive? But
I'm not, nobody's opposed to the arcades, so if
No,
folks
I'm
wanna
not.
like put the arcades in, it's
I would.
that'd be fine.
That sounds like
I
that.
just don't think it's his, I don't think it's
Okay, all right,
like.
you guys,
I'd
wait a
say-
minute,
I have
at
one
a time,
last
one at a
thing,
time.
one last thing, I'm sorry.
Good,
Yeah.
Max, sorry.
One at a time, please.
So finally, just to get back to the main point around sort of the density, whether it's going to be more like commercial or whether it's going to be more like downtown. I know downtown for 4 units under footnote 3. No. For 4 units, I guess it's downtown is 2,000 square feet, but under the current bylaw, it's 2,250. I didn't know if there was if we would prefer 2,000, if we would prefer 2,000, what it is currently. But I just wanted to say that it is denser downtown in terms of the square footage for 4 family. I just wanted to make sure that the committee thought that was appropriate. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Max.
I think I agree
You
with
like
Max,
that, Seth?
arcades would be kinda cool just to add to the use list.
I mean, well, we have to take it out of the prohibition
Yeah,
list,
which is
right?
something
Prohibited
I've actually
list.
proposed to Mark
Wouldn't
and
we?
Jamie before, is to bring it out. This was probably about a year or so ago, that I'm like, why is it even in there?
Well, you
still?
know what, I think that,
We should take it out.
that comes to, agenda item number 4,
Which-
I believe, which is our future goals. But, so the the last thing that Max mentioned was the density, and I think we discussed that already, right? Did we? No, so like, you're saying 4-family now. I think we
No,
talked
yeah,
about
so it's a
3-family.
different footnote, so I don't know if when we're talking about the footnotes being resolved, if that was one of the footnotes that was resolved. But
Okay.
this was for 4-family, not for
It's-
3-family.
It says 4 dwellings.
4 dwellings,
It doesn't
okay.
say 4-family.
Oh,
It
my
says
bad.
Yeah, 4 units, I think, right?
Well, the ADU would still
Yes.
qualify for that parcel.
Right.
Right.
If you had a triple decker, you could still have an ADU.
No, I'm just questioning whether it should be 2,000 or 2,250 for that footnote.
So 2 and 3 on that attachment, it's what it's referring to at the top, it says.
Right, that's the
1,
downtown
2.
commercial. Right?
So currently it's 2,250. I was saying it should be more like downtown commercial, which is 2,000.
So
What was
you're
what's
saying
C1 now? Do you know, Joe? Off the top of- Is C1 2,000 now?
2,000.
No, it's 2250.
2250.
2250.
So I think that was the only reason is originally the feedback was just cut, copy, and paste. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
you can't change it. So if you want to do 2,000, we can certainly do 2,000. It's up to you guys.
Oh, that would make it closer to the downtown commercial that I was,
Sure.
what I really, I love the zoning of the downtown commercial, but what we were thinking about was to make it a little less dense, like denser than what's there, but not quite as dense as downtown commercial, and that was sort of, it's a mini downtown, right?
Yes.
But
It-
I would always be.
In essence, it's an extension.
I would always be willing to make it 2,000 square feet.
Madam Chair, you could also split the difference. It doesn't have to be either of those numbers. It can be anything in between.
I think that was a compromise in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
compromise.
as part of a
Mhm.
bigger package for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and I think it's a step forward. It's not, like I said before, I don't think we're at the end of the changes that are gonna happen here. And, so I,
A quick note on.
hold on, Joe, hold on. Counselor Jones, do you have anything?
Nope. I'm good, thank you.
Joe, sorry,
The 3 units in C1 as of right,
yeah,
the planning board under special permit could give you 6 units on a small, so you're not limited to the 2250. That's only as of right for 3 units.
right,
So if someone wanted to go in with 4 to 6, you go to the planning board, which I believe anything over 3 units, you have to go to the planning board anyway, whether it was
Thank you,
for right
Max.
or not. So you'd still get more units like he's talking about, so it still can get very dense.
it can get dense. I feel like sometimes when you have to go for a special permit, it just stops people from doing it,
Okay,
right?
that's fair enough.
Counselor Sheridan, do you have anything to add?
I just like the leave it as arcades.
Yeah, I just found it, so, we'll take a look at that. I know it's in principal use 5.7, automatic amusement device arcades, but I think there was a difference between what that is and what you're thinking of.
Could
But
I
don't
ask
know
what, never mind.
that- you just want the Frogger games, right? Seriously?
No, that just reminds me of 1982 when everybody was upset
Right.
about the arcades
Cl-
and the bad influence on kids and.
Too much, right?
Yeah.
And we
Oh.
turned out okay?
Give me a break.
We were up just fine.
Look what happened to me, I was the
Yeah,
pinball wizard back in the
Apparently
day.
it didn't really.
And hanging out the
All
Watertown
right,
Mall
I
all
w-
day.
I would like to address Max again. I think what we'll do is we'll keep it the way it is, and then I would appreciate if you went to the public
Council.
hearing at the planning board and asked them to discuss it and see what they thought about it. I would like to know what they think.
Great idea.
And then come to the council meeting afterwards when we have our public hearing and let us know what you think about their answer. Is that okay? All right, great. Okay, I think we're ready. Oh,
One last one, which is the major one while I'm here.
Joe, yeah,
I'm in-
can you pull your mic over,
Okay,
the
sorry
mic
about that.
over?
All right, Joe Halligan. Everything's been great, all discussed. Buying a recent purchase of a property on Union Street, I can tell you for a fact, there is a great need for parking.
Huge.
2 days after I paved my place, there was 25 cars in there. They thought it was a municipal parking lot. They're like, hey, this is great. I mean, motorcycles, cars, I mean, it was out of control.
Yeah,
Till we had to educate the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
okay.
Being with a restaurant, one per spot per 500 and one per dwelling, 3,000 square foot restaurant is only gonna need, what, 5 parking spots, 6 parking spots? Certainly not enough for the amount of customers. As a suggestion, what I would like to see, but you have no's on here, no off-street parking and no parking facilities allowed. I think you're gonna need a parking facility down in that area, with the SNET trail coming in, where's somebody gonna park? It just gives it open. Right now, it says parking facilities, off-street parking, not allowed, N. So if someone,
Can you tell me which attachment it is?
I'm looking at 2025,
Oh,
February.
this is the one I don't have.
Yep, 185.3, use schedule, parking, and you are proposing 2 Ns, one on a parking facility and on off-street parking.
Which, it's 2 point what?
.8.
2.8, okay, got it.
I don't think it would hurt to eliminate that. That if someone wants to put a parking lot in, it would work. Because there is no parking. I see them parking across the street at the lighting store, they're and the museum hasn't even opened yet. And the SNET trail hasn't opened, where they're gonna wanna park and take their bikes or walk. It opens up an avenue, otherwise, we could leave N, but I don't wanna get into the next subject, but it would just require a use variance to put a parking lot in.
It's 10 or more is a parking facility.
Right.
10 spots or more?
I was just gonna ask, Mark read my mind. So I bet you there's a definition in there where it's not necessarily what we may be thinking. Mark, 10 or more, is that a parking deck?
Or parking lot.
Anything less than 10 would not be prohibited. Parking facility is defined as 10 or more, area, structure, or building.
So that's why it was a no. I'm not saying Mr. Halligan's comment is right or wrong, but to his model of a 3,000 square foot restaurant, you would need 6 spaces, it wouldn't trigger this piece. Now, obviously, you need more.
Well, I'm saying, people have to park in general, somewhere.
Yeah.
For
But I'm
everybody.
not against what he's saying. We're just making sure everybody knows the.
It just gives people the option. It still has to go through planning board and permitting. You
Right,
can't go put a parking
right,
lot in.
and depending on which particular lot, whether it even be large enough to
It could
accommodate.
be- It could be anywhere.
a
It could be
parking
behind the
facility.
buildings, down,
But
behind
the
the
planning
mill.
board would
It could be a
still-
parking area behind the mill, maybe where Benny's Oil is someday, maybe behind
Yeah.
Franklin Sheet Metal at one point. Of course, nothing's gonna get built overnight, but it leaves that
True.
option
I-
open to have a parking
That's
facility.
I don't have a. I
Some of
don't-
those parcels, I think, that he just mentioned down the street, near the Saxon area things, might have a reuse someday for a parking
That should
facility.
be a common.
Especially on the track.
It is a common.
Right.
What was the track?
Not accepting.
No, it's true.
What was
The
the
SNET
track?
trail.
It's now the SNET trail.
And some of
Yeah,
those
well, that's gonna be
parcels
a
abut that,
Right.
and it would be a beautiful parking area for
Yeah.
someone to park, hop
Yeah.
on the trail.
Okay,
Come visit the town, do the trail, come back, go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
thank you, Joe.
As a practical matter,
Mark Stroll.
I think as a practical matter, you're not gonna get anyone building a private parking lot that, for commercial or realistically anyways, it is the only one that I'm aware of is the one the town has, which we in turn lease from a private property owner and build. So,
I'm gonna go to Max.
No, I'm sorry. I just to his point.
Okay,
I
Counselor Jones.
I understand that we haven't had a lot of interest in building these, but to simply restrict them right out of the gate means that if anybody even thought of having an idea, they're gonna say no because it's already listed as no. If we put yes, that would at least allow the option for somebody who did, if they had such an idea, to put the facility in, and they would feel like, hey, let's go to the planning board and see what we can do to make this work.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Max?
We're Steve Sherlock. I don't know if he has that, is used to the setup of moving the mic, but, I think I want to make the committee aware that there is a cost to parking. First off, I'm not against parking, but I think first off, it's really unattractive to have parking in the middle of this new district, this fancy district we're putting in. So it should at least be out of sight, where it doesn't hurt the character of the district. Second, that's something that you can't build other things on. You can't have a house there, you can't have a restaurant there, you can't have a business there.
No.
It's just a big bunch of concrete. And so, I think that we can have parking, but I think it has to be done in a way that's tasteful, and I'm worried that it can't be just simply saying we allow it anywhere. It has to be done more carefully. So maybe we could look at planning board, or maybe them having it as an option, but I would be opposed to just have a blank check and saying, hey, put a parking lot anywhere you want in this new district.
Thank you, Max. I think it would be a good thing to go through the planning board
Yes.
for a special permit and to remove the ends.
And just put PB.
And we need to have a design for what we want to see there, right? So, I agree with Max. I don't like parking lots in the front of the buildings. If it's hidden, if it has some greenery around it, maybe it's connected some way to something, like, there's a way to do it. There is a huge need for parking there. I know, I hear it all the time for people that are trying to get into La Cantina.
Right.
And that's why I ride my bike. But they're already all over the place.
Right.
They're already in Old Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're filling up all those parking lots and on the streets and everything already. And so maybe somebody somewhere might want to put in a parking lot. I don't think we should restrict that, but I think we need to make sure it's done the right way
I agree.
and it fits the neighborhood.
So we can either change that here, or we can add that to the list of the planning board questions that Amy's gonna bring forward.
I would just
I
change
think we should change it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Let's
Yeah.
change it here. But before we do that, I'm gonna call on Steve Sherlock.
I was just going to thank you, Madam Chair, but I was going to reflect historically and add that note that at one point in time, and I don't remember exactly, but during early days for La Cantina, there was significant discussion from the neighbors a couple of times at council meetings around the parking that was intruding on their parking spaces in their neighborhoods.
Right.
So parking, as you've discussed already, it's a small neighborhood, there's tight spaces, it's an older section. Parking is going to be an issue. Clearly, that needs to be well-managed,
Yes.
expectations as well, so that when a new parking spot goes in, people just don't go to it if it's not theirs to use.
Right.
So just but you already remembered that, so
Yes.
that's the only point
Thank
I
you.
wanted to.
Actually, I remember that from La Cantina before, but the La Cantina 2.0 is bigger.
Yeah.
There's more people that go. They have a bigger parking lot, but it still fills the streets.
Yep.
Acapulco's too?
Yeah.
Same thing when they moved down there.
Attorney Sorrell.
So going back to one, it was also a concern that there was a commercial property in the area where patrons were parking after hours, and neighbors, residents who lived there were objecting strenuously, so it cuts both ways. So this isn't a legal opinion,
Okay.
but my suggestion, my philosophy would be, particularly when you're creating a new zoning district, is to be conservative, because otherwise you're gonna get people, but by introducing anything that's really potentially controversial unnecessarily, you may jeopardize the entire bigger picture. And you can always go ahead and do those things after you get the initial amendment in place. So that's what my advice when there was a review of uses was anything that was questionable. For instance, again, coming back to the arcades, that's a political decision, but the moment they're not allowed anywhere else in town, and I would advise against picking a district such as this to just introduce it back in. It could have bad consequences.
I'm all for putting it back in the downtown. I mean, I
Well,
don't,
that's fine.
that too. I
could do-
mean,
we
it's,
could do
I mean, the
that.
fact of the matter, it was taken out of the downtown, and from my understanding, is from the stories I've heard.
A special district
Right.
someplace.
Yep. You know, so, no, Mark, I understand your logic, and honestly, I've always understood your conservatism when it comes to these things. It's just, I think, what really triggers a lot of people is when they see the letter N on something. It's like, no, 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 no. It's like, as soon as I come to Franklin, I look at this list, I see a big fat N, I know I can't do any of these things that are listed there, so why bother? At least by opening it up and at least making it a yes or maybe a PB on this list, for parking specifically, maybe for arcades, who knows? We'll play it as we go through. And at least they know we have that option, even if it has to be through the planning board. For discussion.
Parking particularly would be a candidate for a special permit as opposed to it as of right.
Right.
Because they could deal with.
PB was actually a
restriction.
pretty good idea, I thought.
You know, and in all honesty, we have to leave options open, at least from some degree, so that they're available. But do you mind if I say a quick comment about the parking areas just for a moment?
Go
And
ahead.
that is,
Go ahead.
this is just, look, Max, I grew up in Watertown, I work every single day in Boston, and I know what high-density neighborhoods look like, specifically in places where they could only build to 6 stories. The whole Back Bay is 6 stories limited. Why? Because it's a marsh. They literally built on a marsh. The Prudential building, the only reason it stands is because it has a 300-foot stick that sticks in the ground that keeps it standing. That's all area that at one point got filled in and turned into what you now know as the fancy brownstones and stuff like that. Those buildings are particularly challenging, but they still manage to have on-street parking. Granted, they have very narrow alleyways in the back, and still maintain, you must agree, some character to the neighborhoods. So I think everyone's a little projecting here as to what's going to happen to a neighborhood overnight. It's just not. Rome wasn't built in a day. If we at least allow these options to be open and see what comes down the pike later on, the planning board, the economic development committee meetings, and the council will all have an opportunity to look at these ideas and look at these plans and say, okay, is this the best place to put this? Like, for instance, the parking facilities. I've seen parking facilities in the city of Boston that you never would have guessed was a parking facility. It looks just like the building. I'll give you an example. The downtown area over by Washington Street, which used to be the combat zone. You are not old enough to know what that means. But that whole, yeah.
We know the combat zone, Glenn. I think everybody in the room knows.
That whole area, back then, was just not a place to visit. It wasn't tourist friendly, obviously, depending on the tourists.
Always
but
had good food, Glenn.
Always had good food. But the fact of the matter is,
I wanna
like,
know.
places like Suffolk University and many of those businesses bought up that area and literally kept the facades, but emptied out behind the facades. Some buildings got kept as uses for Suffolk University, but one became a parking lot. That if you were to look at the front of this building, you'd be lucky to find out it was actually a parking garage to try to meet the parking needs down there. You think we would have density issues? Washington Street is a classic example of that, because they have the Opera Houses, they've got Washington Street, you got Macy's, you got all those busy places downtown. You got the Commons, but they fit the parking in. Granted, they've got the Charles Street parking garage underneath the Commons, but the fact of the matter is, this is something that we need to project is going to happen. And by adding in this proposal, I think it's gonna. I think future councils or whoever might be sitting here at the time in the future, whenever if a plan comes across the desk for a parking facility, that someone's gonna be keen enough to say, hey, is it conducive to the neighborhood? We don't want a big, ugly brick, no insult to Worcester. Worcester actually has been improved. Ugly, big, black brick building or block building. I get it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. It's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. I was wondering, what was the if somebody could remind me, parking facilities is 10 or more?
Yes.
Okay, I got that right. Off-street parking, what was that? What was the difference between them?
Mark left.
Joe, do you know?
Off-street parking is for businesses that can park off, but I just.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought, it was
But
like
I
the,
want to comment on something before we go too far, with same subject, about changing the ends.
So-
I believe Mark Sorrell is kind of on the money, what he says. But because of the way this meeting's structured tonight, I don't know which way to go. I'm saying end now because I don't know how the next thing's gonna go. But this is a perfect candidate for a use variance, where they would have to abide by strict rules and regulations, and it wouldn't be a blanket for the whole neighborhood. It would be, someone's coming in, they want a use variance for that particular area, the town's in agreement, the neighbors are in agreement, and it works. But if the next meeting we're having after this, if that goes away, then you need this. So we'll put, I'm
Well, I
kinda
mean,
like,
so one of the things, though, Joe, is that we're just talking about this to go to the council, to send to the planning board for the public hearings, right? And I just, sometimes, like, when something goes to the ZBA, it doesn't get approved, and we really think it's a good thing, then sometimes recently we changed the bylaw to allow for a sign, and so I kind of feel like it's more regular to have it in the use schedule, so that everybody knows right away.
Agreed.
So that's kind of the way I come at towards it. So like, I want to be able to look online when I'm coming into the town and say, okay, I can do these things with an updated code, obviously, right? But and so that then, I have to go in front of the planning board, and the planning board has design regulations that came from the master plan, right? And so the master plan is a living, breathing document that we have to use, right? And so they need to use those design reviews. It doesn't fit into the neighborhood, and what does it look like? It's like, well, no, it's not gonna work. Or yes, or actually, we need more, or we need less, and we change it. That's the fun part about zoning, we can change things. I like that. That was my rant. I'm gonna go to Jamie first, and then we're gonna go back to Max.
Super quick question. I think a reasonable compromise on that is planning board by special permit. You don't have to do it,
Yeah.
it's kind of a middle ground where it does allow it. There'll be a standard. I do think 10 or more cars, I mean, depending on the parcel in the district, you could have, 80 spaces in one of these.
Yeah.
Is that too big? Too small? But at least at a planning board, you're allowing it, but you're not prohibiting it, but at least you're allowing for that opportunity to happen, but at least there's a check and balance. I
Right.
think that's a very good idea, whoever
Yeah.
said this.
Yeah.
Continue. If you wanna change it, I think either now or at the council level before you're referred to planning board.
Then I'd do it now. Just my
Max. I'm gonna go to Max, and then we're gonna.
So I just want to say I agree with Jamie. There needs to be a balance in the Force, to quote Star Wars. And I also would want to say that this might also be an opportunity for your goal-setting part of the meeting to talk about amending the stormwater fee to exempt, to allow for shared parking. Consider that as a potential goal. Because I think if, we keep hearing about parking over and over again. In downtown, I think it's less of an issue. It definitely is an issue in this new district, more than downtown, I think. But I think having shared spaces there and on downtown would alleviate a lot of the people who are feeling sort of like there's not enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. And I didn't ask him to say that, so that was pretty good. Thank you. Okay, so I think, would you like to make a motion, or
Sure.
what about you, Patrick? Are you okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. You gonna change it?
Yes, I'd like
Yeah.
to make a motion to amend,
Amend.
what is that?
2.8.
Attachment 3, 2.8A,
Yeah.
under the new proposed district, to be changed from no to planning board special permit, just like it's listed under restaurant and bar.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now, we're ready to move this to the council. Correct? I would accept a motion to move this wonderful new
Big bill.
crossing neighborhood district zone onto the town council to go to the planning board for its first public hearing.
So moved.
As amended.
As amended. So moved, as amended.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Oh, wait a minute, you're on Zoom, you've got to, oh, no,
Nobody's on.
Nobody's
we're all
done.
here.
No councilors.
We're all here,
Right.
I think, yeah. All right, now I gotta call, all right, you wanna ping Colby
Yeah,
and tell him to come?
Sure.
Okay, Now I have to find the top of my agenda again, because it all fell apart.
Staples.
Thank you, everyone. That was really fun. The discussion, we're gonna move on to agenda number 2. Discussion and recommendation on eliminating use variances from the authority within the zoning board of appeals to go to the, so if we do think this is a good idea, then it will go to the full council, to go to the planning board for a public hearing, and then back to the council for a public hearing. Do we wanna wait for Kobe to get into the room?
Definitely.
So we're gonna wait for Kobe.
Want to take a quick recess, maybe?
Yeah, let's take a
5-minute
Bio-
recess?
5-minute
bio
recess.
break?
Yeah, bio break. Okay.
Recording stopped.
I was gonna.
And they made it
Let's
into
start again. Are you ready, Chris? Is everybody ready?
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. Hello, we're back. Councilor
switch.
Frangillo is with us now, and we will talk about the use variances. Jamie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the bylaw proposal that's before you tonight would eliminate what are frequently, or what's referred to as use variances in the town code. Why is this here? A handful of reasons. I want to make sure it's clear that this is not a bylaw proposal that will have a significant impact on what people also call as variances for homes, residential homes, or commercial variances on dimensions or yard requirements or decks or setbacks. Those are not impacted by this decision at all. If residential homeowners still need to get a setback variance or something else, they can still do all that stuff from the regular town code. What this is addressing are several things that all of you on the EDC and all of us on the staff have heard loud and clear for the last 18 months, is that the ZBA has far too much power for a 3-member board to be able to grant use variances, which essentially is overriding your already established local zoning. So for example, if you have a commercial district, the ZBA could allow a residential building in a commercial use where a commercial district doesn't have a residential use component to it, okay? So you're basically changing the uses. Another example, all of you just went through, and I think Councilor Hamlin just referred to it. You could have a use variance on the Glen Farmer sign was a variance request from the ZBA that was denied. That use was not allowed in that district. They denied that request. And then as a result, we went through the zoning process to change the town zoning code to allow that use in those zoning districts.
Yes.
We have frequently heard inflammatory language about how the town of Franklin is turning into the town of Framingham. We've heard inflammatory verbiage of us being called Franklin Ham, which is another insult to try to say that somehow we're becoming Framingham, which is an insult to Framingham.
Yep.
Is not appropriate. Also, I think the Glen Farmer example showed a lot of people how input is gathered, meaning sometimes people aren't aware of projects before the ZBA or use variance applications. In the zoning process, by doing it this way and eliminating use variances from the ZBA allows then for the planning board and the council and the community and the abutters a greater opportunity to provide input into whatever those changes are. If you go to the ZBA meeting, sometimes people don't know about those or where they're at or how to deal with them, but they know how to go to a public hearing at the planning board or the council level and offer input into a zoning change. Fourth, by eliminating use variances, you will also be able to focus, I believe, on the master plan and what the 3 of you in particular were just on developed. The citizen satisfaction survey did, in my opinion, clearly back up the work of the master plan committee and a lot of the priorities and public input that came through you in the master plan. It may be, not the highlight thing out of that survey, but if you look at pedestrian friendliness, you look at mobility, you look at a lot of other things, clearly the community is looking for a lot more of that. By allowing use variances to not occur, you're really channeling the community through this very, very challenging time where there's a lot of very divided opinions on development, and you're allowing the master plan to guide the community, which was clearly over however many thousands of hours you guys spent and hundreds, if not thousands of pieces of public input. By taking use variances away, you're allowing the process for the council and the planning board in the future to guide the master plan execution through the community. And obviously, and we all have different opinions on these, but I'm just articulating a lot of the feedback I've heard and you've heard. There are obviously a few projects in town that have really inflamed the community for better or for worse on where housing goes, how development is approved, and right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the way a lot of people feel. What we wanted to do in working with the chair was bring forward something that you could have a discussion about. I do believe the chair of the council, as well as myself, does believe that still at a minimum the entire council should have this discussion on use variances because of the dissatisfaction in the community about where some housing is going. To be very clear for the record, if anybody watches this later on, removing use variances will not prohibit the Stobart's development or a couple of other things in the community that people may be happy of in their neighborhoods from happening. The simple fact is that this community is now pretty much built out. Most horizontal parcels around the town, there are really no major large parcels left. And I think this is a natural evolution of a community having a discussion that is fairly built out. And in the future, I think as we talked about on some of the other agendas, we're talking about redevelopment. There's gonna be a whole bunch of other dynamics, similar to the town of Needham 20 years ago, where different things are gonna be happening. The subdivision of the 90s, there may be some small ones that you could get 4 or 5 units, or a few here or there, but the subdivision that people in Franklin have grown up in the last 30 years is gone. The 20, 25, 30, 1 acre, half acre subdivisions are gonna be very challenging to deal with in the future. And so, at this kind of crossroads that I think a lot of people are talking about, I think this is an important discussion for the community and all of you to have about whether or not the ZBA has too much power, whether or not unelected people should be handling these very divisive issues in the community. And, you know, I think it's a conversation that probably has been, waiting some time to be had. So given the fracture in the community, given the fact that 35% or 36% of the community feels like it's headed in the wrong direction, a big part of that is development. And a big part of that is density, and a big part of that is building height. And a big part of that is community character. And so, unfortunately, a few projects have inflamed some of those tensions, and so before you tonight is a simple bylaw proposal to eliminate the ability for the ZBA to grant use variances only. It would not affect any dimensional requirements. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Amy, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Gus? He's like probably,
Gonna unmute.
yeah.
Hi, sorry.
What did he say?
You know, Jamie brings, am I on?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta talk loud, though.
Yeah, I'm trying. So Jamie brings up great points about what we hear, what we see, and how frustrating it is sometimes with the jobs that we do. And I'm not a complainer. I like and love the town I work in and I live in. But the complaining about where we're doing things and how we're doing things, it's something that's happened, and we want to make changes. And I don't have too much more to say about it other than I want to listen to what people have to say about it. I know that sometimes use variances are good. We had several different things over the years that have had use variances that were good. And that had to do with assisted living, and the hotel was a little bit, it was a little bit of a conflict with the last hotel that was approved, and the location that it went in, but that was also a use variance. It brings good income into the town. I think that everybody here on this committee and everybody that's in the room has great ideas. We put our heads together when the going gets tough. I think that if there's some middle ground, I think there's going to be some opposition to it tonight. Maybe not, I could be wrong, but I think there will be. And if there is, my suggestion is, can we meet somewhere in the middle? Do we look at housing as more of the culprit, so to speak, than any other type of use variance? But that's all I have to say right now. I just want to listen to what people have to say.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Attorney Sorrell.
I just want to give a little historical perspective. Zoning in its present form was not enacted until relatively recently, the 1930s. I don't know when it was actually adopted in Franklin, but at any rate, it was no earlier than that. At the time that zoning was developed, obviously, therefore, there was a lot of pre-existing, and you were imposing or superimposing planning on existing.
Right.
And the legislature recognized that there could, as a result, be hardship cases that they couldn't anticipate. So this was like an escape valve, if you will. And the legislation actually, as it's drafted, basically requires an affirmative grant to a ZBA to be able to issue use variances. That's required in the first instance, and that was what was done here. And so what we're actually doing is going over and above the legislative requirement by saying, not only are we removing the affirmative language, because it's been in place so long, we're making it clear that it's not allowed. Now, actually, the standard for the grant of a variance is extremely high by statute and almost impossible legally to satisfy if there's any productive use of a piece of property. That being said, the court system over years has, in order to control the volume of appeal cases, come up with a legal concept of who has the right to prosecute it. It's called standing. And they've put a very stringent standard on that. So even though you may have an egregious example of a grant of a variance, there's nobody that the courts will recognize that has the ability to challenge
That can
it.
stand it.
So this is really a protection, and again, you've got a whole process in place. You've got experts now, you've got planning departments, you've got master plans, plenty of ways to totally vet what's good for a community and what's not. And that's a dynamic process that's available to change, living, breathing, as you said earlier, going forward. So really a variance by its term is varying. So you're varying your zoning bylaw as a whole as well as it applies in a particular area. And that's why there's such a high theoretical legal standard for the grant of it. But as I said, I think, in my own humble opinion, the appellate courts in Massachusetts made a big mistake when they restricted the ability of people to be able to challenge individual grants of variances, which is what's produced some of the
Confusion.
consequences that we now find objectionable.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Counselor Jones?
Just a quick question for you, back to Mark. Along those lines, Mark, based on my understanding of what you just said, people prior to 1920, 1930, there was basically no zones, but you could have, let's say, you could say that you had Davis there, which was a hat factory, which was a straw factory back in the day. That was, for all intents and purposes, an industrial/commercial use prior to the zoning that was going there. But if you went and zoned it residential, it doesn't, for all intents and purposes, escape the fact that it was at one time prior to be zoning residential or municipal, a industrial use. Could they, for all intents and purposes, be grandfathered into that use because that's what that property once was prior to being zoned?
If it were actively involved, if it was still being actively used for that purpose, absolutely. But there's provision, if it's either abandoned or discontinued, you lose the grandfathering.
Okay, thank you. That was my confusion. I had figured as much, I just wanted clarification, because what I'm getting at was based on what you
Just
said.
because it's in the history of the property, that
Doesn't mean
give
that
you
just
the
can't
rights.
rear its head.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
okay, just curious.
Okay.
Yep, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor Sheridan? Counselor Frangillo? Oh, you need your microphone.
Sure. Yeah, getting settled in. So, it's my understanding that we are struggling as a community to pay for the services that that our residents have come to expect. And one of the opportunities we have to help pay for those services is to allow for new growth it seems like handicapping our ability to accept new growth, however small, seems like the wrong direction. I just don't see the call for this. We did have a large master plan. Nothing in the master plan talked about removing the flexibility of development in town. In fact, almost all of it spoke to increasing the flexibility of development in town. You know, if we're looking for a compromise in this, then I would love to ensure that our zoning is in line with the master plan or a larger vision of what Franklin could be. As it is, we invented zoning and overly restrictive zoning to give the power to the planning board and zoning board to have case-by-case, you know, debates over what should be allowed. I don't think that should be the paradigm of development in Franklin, but it doesn't mean removing power from our approval boards, at least not until it means actually ensuring that the types of uses and types of development that we want to allow in town are actually able to be built in town. Only then would I want to consider our ability to, you know, veer from that predetermined plan. As it is, I started to go through and just circle places where we have no's that like would need a use variance, that like I could at least see a world where that could be a positive project. And I was overwhelmed by the amount of opportunities. I mean, a shopping center in the downtown, surely we could see a possibility where there could be a positive project in our downtown that would be worth considering. A country store in any of our residential zones, surely we can picture, and as you travel around Massachusetts, the charming country stores that exist in residential areas, that we could at least consider the possibility if one were to come forward. None of this says that we have to approve them. They're just our ability to at least consider them if they're deemed positive for the community. Charities in any of our residential zones or business zones or our industrial zones, none of those would ever possibly be allowed. Surely we want to at least consider the possibility of those. A small art gallery in our residential areas or our business areas. Any of our arcades, as our friend here is always talking about, surely we would want to at least consider that as a possibility if something were to come forward, and happy to talk about more opportunities. I just don't see this being a call from our group. I don't think it's anything that we've been talking about. I'm happy to consider it if it's coming in pairing with an actual vision for the type of development that we do want in Franklin. I don't see the reason to further handicap our ability to at least consider positive projects for the community.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Joe?
Sure, this is the main reason why I'm here. I'd like the chance to speak this out slowly so I get it right. I think we all know why we're here because of this. It's common sense why we're here. Social media, people complain all the time. I understand it's a challenge. It's tiring people out. I see a lot of people just laying down and just going, I can't fight the fight anymore. Let's just make this go away. Well, I'm still in the fight. I got on the ZBA so I can have these challenges and discussions. And I think it's constructive. Just to give you a little example, project across the street did get a use variance for multifamily. That parcel of property pays the town of Franklin $500,000 a year now versus $20,000 for an old car lot. I think your override would have been $4.4 million had that not been built. That's just one parcel. There are a couple sprinkled around. I did my homework. I don't think there's been a handful of use variances 5 or 8 years. But the ones that we're targeting tonight is the show. I get that. I was on the master plan. We spent 16, 18 months on it. A lot of great ideas. I believe what Jamie said, we're all built out. I think the storm is past. You might get a trickle here and there, but there's not gonna be any of these big storms happening with housing anymore. It's pretty much built out. The cost of construction, labor, on top of that is making it almost impossible to build, believe me, I know. We talked a lot about, and one thing he didn't discuss just now is these bylaws just don't, everything doesn't change in a day. It takes a long time.
Right.
So, we talked a lot on the master plan about like a little neighborhood market. That's a perfect example of a use variance where maybe the neighbors will come together and say, this is a great idea, it works here, but I don't want the whole street zoned. And you can't spot zone, you're gonna do a whole area. You may not get the support of a neighborhood to do that, but maybe one small farm stand on a side road possibly, you might get the support to come in and say, yeah, we'd like a little neighborhood store. Converting single-family homes that are larger into a 2 or 3 family in some districts, not allowed, needs a use variance. So now we're kind of restricting that 2 or 3 family you wanna do, it affects that. What else I have written down here? That was a perfect example of the arcade.
Yeah.
I was in that business years ago with entertainment, and liquor, and pinball machines and everything. I don't believe arcades belong everywhere in town. To give a whole zone and a whole area a blanket permit for arcades, I don't think you wanna see pinball machines in every corner and arcades and people hanging everywhere in small places. But give you an example, the Mill. What a great spot that would make for an arcade in that Mill. Snack trail, all that stuff. You might get the support of everybody to say, that works, like a mini Dave and Buster's, or some, just ideas like that. But maybe go to the Economic Development Committee meeting, go to a tech review meeting, get some support from people before they come to a ZBA. I don't recall much, I've only been in the ZBA a while, but I've watched the meetings for years. I never seen a lot of input from the town on variances. It's pretty much left alone just on the 3 members. There's no pieces of paper coming, well, this went to EDC, it went to tech review, there's some support here. There's no neighbors in the room, this might work. Let's continue this, do some homework on it. But it's one more tool in the toolbox. By taking tools out, it makes it harder to develop. People come in, we don't know, like, we didn't know this would be around 20 years ago, we didn't know electric cars would be around like they are today. To just take that off the plate, it's never coming back once it's gone. And someone's gonna sit back and go, you know what? Here's an example where I use variant, geez, we lost a great opportunity. The downtown, a guy wants to do the whole downtown over, not allowed, sorry, sir. By the time that goes for zoning changes and attracts so much attention and so many people and social media, everybody lays down. We don't get it. It just kinda, nobody wants to hear it. I think it's just a tool in the toolbox that can help us in the future, but maybe a little more input from staff, or not staff, but
Committees.
planning board, maybe could throw us a letter, or economic development, yeah, this came, we like the idea. Just don't leave everything on 3 men to go, what's everybody thinking? Well, nobody's saying anything, we'll give it. So, there's so many other things too, that the parking lot was one.
Signs.
We already discussed that. Oh,
Signs.
signs, stuff like that. Maybe some signs don't belong in some areas. There was one controversial one that got a lot of power behind it. I understand all that. It may be good somewhere else, it may not. But to just change a bylaw every time one spoke squeaks in the wheel, to throw the whole wheel away, oh, let's just do a new bylaw. And every time someone complains to change a bylaw, this is kind of that halfway fix. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Joe. Max?
Still haven't processed everything I want to say, so I'm just going to try to give you what I got. So, you know, I looked at the survey data that was from the Franklin that was put out, and you know, it was striking. I do think people are upset, and I do think that development and the fear of development is very tied to issues of trust with the town. I also think, you know, the same survey said affordable housing is important. So how do you reconcile those two things? But I think that the anger is real, and I think that we need to come together as a town and as a government to figure out how do we address this in a way that is productive, fully understands the issue, because I don't think this is gonna be, I don't think that this fix is gonna solve the issue. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I think, you know, there could be, you know, one of the things I learned about in political science class, and when I was studied public administration at Bridgewater State, was that sometimes when you have a civic action, we had to watch, what was it, Erin Brockovich? Was that the one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, we had that, the teacher gave us this metaphor that when people are upset, when they're angry, it's like a champagne bottle that's being shaken.
Yep.
And and there's a cork on top, and if you don't let the pressure out, it's gonna explode. And so what you gotta do is, you know, the neck is, you gotta put a little safety valve out for people to be able to express their anger and be able to have a voice. And so I think with I do think that, you know, I think on one hand, Kobe's right, you do need to have some process to be able to have variances, but I also think people also need a way to be heard, and I think we need to do a job as a town is to figure out what that is and how to do that appropriately, and I think that's gonna take years. It's not gonna be solved in this meeting. But I also think, you know, in public policy, we have to look at the alternatives, and I did have some questions for Attorney Sorrell, and they're just off the cuff. I try to come up with crazy ideas, a lot of them don't work. Is there a way for us to, in our bylaws, allow standing for people in the town to appeal to a court, but not apply monetary damages or anything that would cost the town money?
No.
Okay.
The courts have the final say. You can't confer what the jurisdiction that they're the final say on that.
Okay. And the other question is instead of requiring a majority vote for the ZBA, can we require unanimous consent of both the associate and the I mean, I don't know if that would require a charter change.
It's a statute.
The statute. So there's no way to change the composition or the thresholds or any other bar for how these things come out of the ZBA.
It has to be unanimous by the ZBA for a variance or any other zoning relief. A 40B is only majority vote. Again, both by statute.
State statute.
And is the size of the ZBA set by statute?
You can have 5.
The charter would need to be amended
Yep.
to go to 5 and then take off the associates. The associates would be permanent members.
Because if it's required to be unanimous, if they were allowed to vote, that would raise the bar just a little bit.
No, if it goes to 5, then you're allowed, I believe, to go 4-1.
4-1, yeah.
That's still one more than, oh. So just some things to think about. I don't know if there's any other options with regards to this position. I do think that, you know, I'm not sure where I stand on it exactly, but I do think that ultimately, as a town, we got to, you know, figure out where this anger is coming from and what we can do about it. And it's not going to be easy. So thank you.
Thanks, Max. Did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I guess really quickly, just so that's for the record, changing the charter requires a ballot vote after a procedure that is very cumbersome. Unfortunately, I would also argue that 5 members on the ZBA is probably a better number, especially given the size of the community, but there's very limited amount that we can do about that without, I think, to Max's point, just a broader strategy. I do agree with pretty much everything Kobe said. I agree with almost everything Joe said. I do want to say this legislation is probably by far the most significant thing that you guys have considered all session. This is a seismically large decision with ramifications probably far in excess of almost anything else we've done in the 2 years. And just so folks know where this is coming from, a lot of this is coming from this very deep-seated anger and distrust. You know, I'm sorry if I get a little emotional, but like some of the conversations I have had with people are really awful. Some of the things that people have said to me personally, to many of you, to you, people around this room, have been incredibly hurtful and very depressing. I think change is one piece of this. The last 6 years, we as a society have decided that we're going to kind of blow off and try to move forward the significant amount of disruption and change that has gone on in every one of our lives in different ways the last 6 years. I think what you are seeing is a lot of development is popping up on a proposal I can't think of one, or very few, I should say, in which the neighborhood rallied around something. Summer Street, Pleasant Street was literally a gift from God, and was just shredded apart by people. Stobart's obviously, we knew Grove Street wouldn't because there's nobody there. And I think the juxtaposition of where people live and where things are being proposed versus where they're not one person barely showed up at the Grove Street hearing because nobody was next to it. Even though everybody else is angry about housing, but they never showed up at that because I think at the end of the day, this really has to do with a lot of NIMBYism. And it just is. Be that as it may, to see the data and the set about the pathway, the quality of life is at a 99% approval rating, but people think 1/3 of the public thinks we're headed in the right direction is a deeply long gap. Yeah, in the wrong direction. I just want to make sure I emphasize that this is not something anyone on our staff or any other person is pushing. Out of all the feedback I've received myself, in addition to for review, plus the other 5 members of the council and the planning board, and going to ZBA meetings myself, there's a chasm in this community, and I think on this issue, removing use variances holistically, generally the ethos from my standpoint is this is a very bad idea. On the same end, I also am trying really hard, and I am respecting people's incredible amounts of very vicious anger. And I don't think this has been something that I'm making melodramatic here. I mean, what people have been saying is incredibly disturbing. And development in town is a part of that. It just is. And it's not just Stobart's. Last thing I'll say is the friendly 40B policy, which we're going to go through next week at the council meeting, was intended by all of us authentically to recognize that these very challenging applications were going to come before the town council. The staff thought it was in our best interest to try to guide you with some sort of framework. And a lot of the feedback was, hey, planning board, conservation, ZBA, they're the boards that deal with all this stuff. There's the expertise. Let's get some feedback. All those boards thought that was a really good idea. They did their job. And yet when it gets to you guys, I'm not surprised that one vote was 4-5 and one was 5-4. That shows some of the division in the community. That's okay. That's healthy. But what really shocked me was the reaction that people thought that engagement that we gave them, the more notification. Most people from Stobart's they went to the planning board hearings. They offered feedback at the Conservation Commission. There were concessions made. There were improvements to those projects. And yet, I feel like at the end of the day, the anger got 3 or 4 times as bad. So we gave people more headway, more opportunity to comment, more engagement. Everyone knew of those meetings, yet somehow the engagement turned the other direction where it's become, we've had police officers at 4, 5, 6 ZBA and planning board meetings with civility. And the relationship back was, it's all the town, like the citizens, there's no two-way street on this. It's definitely, to my view, and I know this from the tech review staff, it's rocked our boats of what do we do? And how do we referee the incredible amount of comments that came through your master plan process to support a project like Stobart's through the master plan? That's copacetic with what y'all heard. But then there's this other side, not just the NIMBYs, but the politicization of this stuff has gotten extremely vitriolic, and I don't think it's just social media. I think but I think that there are some incredibly raw feelings in this community about this issue. And I think, I have to say it, I think the ZBA over time, in my 10 years here, has been incredibly excellent at doing a great job helping 95%, 98% of homeowners and businesses in this town have received supportive variances through dimensional or uses. There's unfortunately just 4, 5, 6, or 7, and there will be one more, by the way, because when the planning board is looking at the project in between Spruce Pond Creamery and King Street Deli Cafe, I will guarantee you that when that gets going, people are absolutely gonna be livid. And that's just gonna be another visual to show how the one time maybe the ZBA or the planning board got something wrong and not acknowledge the other 99 times they've done something exceptionally good. If the EDC or the town council eventually has any other recommendations other than this, we need to have that discussion. And I think talking to Chair Mercer about him trying to deal with all the different opinions, I don't think there's a goal here that this has to happen and this is gonna somehow solve everything. But we do have to show voters somewhere, somehow, that we are listening, we are being responsive, and at some point, we have to come to some sort of new way of doing business and development in Franklin. And so I think the use variance bylaw concept is trying to get everybody to talk together about how we're gonna meet more in the middle on these things. Even if this doesn't go through, which I agree with Joe, this gets repealed, it'll never get back on. If this gets repealed, there will be, to Kobe's point, projects that should have happened that will not happen. I don't think this is about revenue. I think this is about the quality of life that people said is extremely high in this community. People are very happy with the business opportunities, the restaurants. They are very happy with the retail in this community. They are very happy with the shopping opportunities in this community. They are happy with a lot of things in this community. But what has happened over the last year or two has been very traumatic somehow. And I think we do have to figure out some sort of way to deal with it. And I really appreciate y'all listening to that for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Steve Sherlock.
Yes, from my observational role, I feel compelled to speak to provide some of that, what I see happening. And I certainly appreciate and I acknowledge the pain that's been felt on the resident side, certainly on the staff side, certainly Jamie and everybody else who's been involved, because the vitriol is out there. I totally agree. It's there. We need to do better. How do we do better? Many of you spent 18 months developing the master plan. Now, whether some of them others participated or not, that's beside the point. The master plan is there. In the course of that, you developed the 40B, the friendly 40B, friendly 40B. And it turned out it wasn't quite so friendly because one of the notification pieces wasn't fully executed, and you acknowledge that, and we're gonna make changes. You have yet to do so, although Jamie has promised it to come forward, and apparently that may be, but I haven't seen it yet, but that may be part of it. From a process perspective, people want to have a say. The survey certainly said that. People did not have a say the way it initially came out. The only time they found out was when it became before you for the first votes. And then all of a sudden it was like, what? And of course the vitriol is going to follow because they didn't get the respect that they should have by the notifications. There was also complications around process execution of the notifications on Stobot's. I live right here. I didn't get the notification. I did for the door facility which came in, which also raised the issue, how come the notifications went to one and not the other one? We should have got both. So there's executions there. Now, those happened. I'm not looking to lay blame. They happened, but that fed into the vitriol that followed. So my proposal is this discussion clearly needs to happen. We need to get together and have the discussion so that we can go forward better. I don't think the change should be approved for the reasons we've already mentioned. This, throwing the baby out with the bathwater doesn't help where we need to go. Because if anything, as we go forward, since we are fully built, those redevelopment opportunities, that may very well be the keys where we're gonna need to have this. And as Jamie said, once it goes out, it's never gonna come back. Why do you wanna go through life with one tool less in your toolkit when life is complicated as it is, knowing today? So my suggestion is start implementing, and that's part of your next discussion, prioritization of the master plan changes, which we all spent and you approved. This is what we need to do. Yes, there's some issues. But the major one is acknowledgement of the residents' say, and change the notifications, at least as part of the 40B, friendly 40B. Keep saying it the wrong way, friendly 40B, because respectfully, on both the votes of the 5-4, 4-5, parts of the council did not fully understand friendly 40B and what it meant. That's an education process that the council owns, administration needs to help them, and the citizens need to be part of that because the rest of them don't fully understand it either. So,
Right.
master plan prioritization, friendly 40B notification changes, because that's primarily what's needed there. Because then once people start getting notified, hey, Joe, the relationship is gonna change, the conversation's gonna change. They're not blindsided. My 2 cents, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Question for Attorney Sorrell. So when Gus mentioned, is there any way to split up what variances are allowed for uses and not allowed for uses? Is that possible?
Not within, either you have the authority to grant use variances or you don't.
Or you don't?
Yeah.
You can't go that far.
Okay, all right. And you know, I agree that with the survey, with the third of the people in Franklin who don't like the direction we're going in, to me was really, that actually was kind of hurtful. Because I thought we were doing a pretty good job. I mean, maybe it is because of the housing or the processes that don't exist or that they're not good enough. I think Joe's idea about a process for the ZBA would be really helpful to the ZBA, and I like that idea. I agree that we need to have this conversation because people don't think we're listening. And so how do we have a conversation about this? Like Joe and Steve have said, like, we don't want it to pass, but we want to have a conversation, right? And so, like, when it goes forward, there's always going to be a vote, then there's going to be a vote. And so how do we have the conversation
Here.
without a vote, or like in front of public?
Could have a discussion.
That's,
You could just have a
Yeah.
discussion on the council agenda without legislation on use variances and/or other, wordsmith it, but just other techniques, ideas on how to deal with ZBA power and how to deal with these issues. I mean, you could have a discussion on that, and it may not result in legislation for action this legislative session, but I think that would be very fruitful, and I think,
Because
I think that's maybe a better starting point.
I think we need to have this discussion because people
Absolutely.
don't think we're listening, and this is what people want us to do. And so we need to be able to educate people on what it really means.
Right.
Like Steve said, right? We need to educate people on what it's going to take away. Right? The potential to take away things, as Councilor Frangillo said. And when I think about things like this, I'm like, well, I understand what people want, but it takes away too much possibility, right? Until we get the zoning bylaws changed. And what comes first, right? That's one of the things. Mark has his hand up again, but it's like, what comes first is always really interesting and trying to figure that out. Attorney Sorrell.
So there's gotta be recognition that we don't operate in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So when the 800-pound gorilla in the room is 40B, we've also had the state become more and more proactive and aggressive in dictating what takes place, not just in municipalities, but in the suburbs. So you've got the MBTA communities, which was literally shoved down our throats. And those of us who have dealt with these issues and planning issues and legislative issues related for years and have fought to get to 10%, our initial reaction was to the MBTA communities well, okay, but at least put an affordability component in there.
Right.
And the state's initial reaction was, no affordability component. And then they
Isn't that
reluctantly,
hypocritical?
said, well, okay, but no more than 10%. Given the fact if you're under 10%, it's 25% on a 40B project. So that was like a slap in the face for those of us who had really labored for years in good faith
Yeah. To get that in there.
to get it,
Right.
to
Yeah.
create housing,
Yeah.
and affordable housing at that.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, it's all, and that's dynamic, that's still going.
Okay.
Gus, oh, Gus,
Yep. Gus
you
has
have your
this.
hand up.
I do. Through you, Madam Chair. There was a non-binding overview by boards in the town of Franklin for the latest 40B that's up before the ZBA now. Non-binding means that there is no notification required. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Now, there was notification, and I get it that people weren't notified, but the proponent
It's the elevator.
agreed. It's okay to keep talking?
Yes, sorry.
The proponent agreed, and there was no harm, no foul on continuing the way we had continued, or with the problem that we had. There was no constructive grant for the 40B that the proponent decided to go for through the state. So now we're in front of it with the proper notification, which was done after that. You know, if I'm a homeowner and that 40B comes before my neighborhood, you can bet your life I'm gonna go. And they have gone, and it's been constructive. I think that some of the misinformation out there, and I know that's a strong statement to say, but I think some of the misinformation is a knee-jerk reaction. And I just want to put people's worries at ease. I don't know if that 40B will get approved. I don't think anybody in the room right now knows that answer. And I feel their pain, because if I was living in that neighborhood, I would, you bet your life, like I said earlier, I'd be there. But as far as notification is concerned, I think the town was transparent with this non-binding, which didn't require notification process. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Gus. I missed the beginning of it, so. Did you hear him?
Briefly, I think he's trying to acknowledge the fact that
We followed our.
the town is,
process.
we're following state laws, we're following open meeting laws, we are always sending out the abutter notification. Some of the people over here versus the Stobarts versus the doggy issue facility, one of the educational components is everybody that thinks they're supposed to get a notification is supposed to get one. That's not, as you all know, not true. It's usually a 300-foot, right, around that parcel from a property line. But that doesn't make people happier. They just think that even if they live 2,000 feet away and they're against something, we should have told them. And I think this is to your point, Madam Chair, about the education piece. You know, and I do realize, and I do think in a lot of planning board meetings and a lot of ZBA meetings, when you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 meetings, people start saying, oh, okay. And not only, I don't think it's just that they kind of lose their steam, as much as I think people listen to some of the points that are said. When I went to the ZBA meeting and talked about water, I certainly got a lot of negative feedback. But I also did get some people that also said, you know, I trust your numbers. We saw the newsletter. We understand we have a lot of water, and we also know it's been raining like hell the last year, so we must have water, right? So there are some people that are educating through this process. I don't think that takes away the issue of the ZBA power feeling from some people. It doesn't take away the issues, but I do agree with you, Madam Chair. Like, I know you've tried, I've tried, I know all of us have tried educating those comments that we get, trying to make sure they understand the full picture. But unfortunately, you know, there's still just some part out there that just is gonna be very angry about a few things, and they're in a very negative mood, and I think the King Street Cafe parcel, and after that is gonna set off another set of fireworks. But I do also agree with you, Madam Chair, you know, maybe we just need to have a discussion with this at the council level and see what everybody feels, and maybe we need to hear from everybody else a little bit more about how they feel about all of this stuff. Maybe it's just not use variances. Any recommendations you have to myself or Tom or others, I mean, I think we, you know, trying to do this, you know, next week, you know, maybe we have to have a broader discussion about about people's unhappiness and all this other stuff.
Thank you,
Without
Jamie.
legislation.
Thank you, Jamie. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Listen, my 2 cents on this, really, everything that's been said is very well said. I'm not going to certainly repeat anything that anyone has already said. Steve, well said. Joe, well said. You know, Kobe, well said. Everyone's so far. My only problem, really, at this point is this kind of goes back to what was said earlier about by taking something away, the possibility of putting it back is extremely challenging to do. What I've perceived from the information I've received tonight is this would kind of handcuff us in a sense. And I certainly don't want to handcuff us. Why? Because that just adds more confusion to things. And the question that pops up into my head is, who would then ultimately take on that responsibility if such a variance, another variance, were to be proposed in future, you know, for any future reason? I think one of the things that ultimately people are feeling is somewhat of the politics that's going into this. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Zoning Board of Appeals is a political body that it's appointed by the town administrator, proposed by the town administrator and approved by us and the council, that ultimately it's a body that can change. That's really the only best way I can say that, is that can change. But I think upon those feelings, I think this kind of harps back to what's been said here. We need to sit down as a council and as a planning board and with the ZBA and with the administration and look at many of the ideas that came out of tonight and say to ourselves, how can we improve this process? How do we make it so that the public, whom is the angry person in all of this, can feel comfortable in having A, trust, right? B, that they're being heard when they have a problem, instead of just being discounted and what appears to be ignored in many instances by various people. But the fact of the matter is, I don't feel comfortable just explicitly cutting something out just for the sake of cutting something out without having enough information. One of my questions to either Jamie or to Gus or to Joe or to Mark, how many instances have there been, let's say, hypothetically speaking, in the past 10, 20, 30 years, where this has been necessary?
What do you mean?
To do a
What
use
is
Right,
it?
to do a use variance. I'll go to Joe.
Well, it would be, I know of a couple of them. One is up on Upper Union Street. There was an empty building there. Right as you go back to the hotel, it was abandoned. There was a fellow, Pat Ridgway, bought it.
So that's
Beautiful spot for a mechanic shop, not allowed, went for a use variance. Perfect fit. I mean, there are several all over town. But I'll give you a good example. Let's pretend we're the ZBA here tonight, because I've had people ask me about this white building that's been for sale up here for like 2 years now with a for sale sign. I think it's a dentist building up on the left.
Yeah.
Big one. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's some great opportunity. And one guy goes, listen, I wanna just open up my whole business down below, and I'd like to put 5 or 6, 100% affordable units upstairs. Walk into this, can't do it. I don't think anybody in the room here would vote no for 600% affordable units on top of that second floor and have a commercial use on the bottom. There would be no reason to vote no. It'd be a perfect fit. That's just an example of things that can pop up that we're not thinking about, that just, things happen. And I don't think the public would object to something like that, small, little, affordable unit like that. We're not talking hundreds, 50s, 60s.
You know, I mean, I don't know if the public would not object, but,
But,
you know,
on average, how many have there been in the, say, past 10 or 20 years? Maybe a handful?
Gus might know. Gus
Yeah.
has his hand up.
Gus,
Can we
oh,
go
he
to
had
Gus?
his hand up.
Hey,
Oh,
Gus.
shit, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand, but,
Oh,
you know, like I said earlier, it's assisted living, it's a hotel, which the hotel brings us in a lot of money. And I get it, sometimes people don't want to hear that, but that's what keeps this town moving, development. And, you know, I'm torn between development and what I hear every day.
Right.
And I want it to be a perfect Franklin, and nothing's perfect. But we do the best we can. And you hear it every day. Everyone in this room hears it every day. What they don't like about the traffic is that's like Mark Sorrell said, the gorilla in the room sometimes. It's just, I grew up in the area and I understand, and I don't think it'll ever be Framingham. I just don't see that ever happening. Jamie brought up a great point. A lot of things are built out now. We may not ever have to worry about a use variance again, but I think there's been a message sent, and that's why we're here today. I hope everyone can hear me this time.
Yep, we can hear you.
I think it's a strong message, and we hear you, taxpayers, homeowners, everyone, people that work in town, people that have to drive through town. And the frustration level is high about getting through town. I don't have an answer for that. With no more development, we're still going to get more traffic because other towns are developing. I just don't think you stop everything, but like Mark said, it doesn't sound like you can customize a use variance to work the way you want it to work, is what I heard. I'll listen to everyone else.
that's what I understood too, Gus. Thank you. Joe, one last comment?
Well, when I'm on the ZBA, why can't we have a workshop where we get several members of different boards to get together and talk about the direction we want to go and these ideas, so that the board members feel what you feel? I honestly feel like the ZBA is kind of like out on its own sometimes. It's not really involved that much with information or feedback. It kind of stands on itself.
I think what Councilor Jones said is that the members change, and maybe and to me, like that's really important.
Just like we can change.
Yeah, you know it. Max, one final comment on this, so we
One
can
quick question.
move on.
Just to your point about, the ZBA sort of feels on its own. Can the ZBA be comprised of members of other boards? Or does it have to be appointed by the town administrator, or is there some other way it can be done so that it is more cohesive with the rest of the government?
So there's two issues. One, you again have the charter
It's on our
change,
charter.
so you're minimum 3 years out from that, due to the state legal process of how you change a town charter. You used to be able to go to the legislature and ask for a home rule petition, but they generally stopped doing all those because the home rule petitions that were getting to them were incredibly divisive, and then they were getting stuck in the middle, so they kind of kicked a lot of those back down to the local level, and they're doing ballot questions. So the ZBA composition really could only be dealt with when the town decides it wants to do, in my view, probably a holistic charter review. That's not easy. If you think overrides are hard, holistic charter reviews are probably the one thing that is worse than an override. And Mark is shaking his head. I can see out of my peripheral vision, because if you've been through one before,
He's nodding his
you've
head.
been through,
It's
you have the wounds, the scars.
Yeah.
They're brutal. So, there are elected ZBAs. In my view, that is 100 times worse decision, because now it's pay to play. So now you have ethical problems.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think we've talked about redevelopment authority. I mean, there's a whole lot of different options. I do like the idea of a workshop. We've tried to do some of those in the past. We've had joint meetings. They've come in, the planning board and others, but that's the answer to the ZBA question.
Could you feasibly, I mean, it's a charter, so I mean, you could do a lot of different things, but could you have, like, one member from the council, one member from the planning board, and one member from somewhere else?
No, you,
Attorney
in
Sorrell.
this context, there is a statute that's loosely referred to as the zoning enabling statute that lays out a basic structure, and then within that framework, you have some discretion, but not to the extent you're suggesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max. From what I am gathering, I think we need to discuss this more
At the council.
at the council level, and maybe,
One's input.
is that, like, could we just
Discuss-
discuss
I-
it
Or
all?
do you want to iron out some things here first?
Yeah, I don't know. Discussion at the council level, whatever. We can always discuss things at the council level. We have a subcommittee to discuss how the community should build and grow, and yeah, to say that, you know, this is supposed to be the public space that we're having those conversations and then bringing them to the council. I don't think we need to have a full council discussion. The question as to, like, you know, how do we change the discussion around development in Franklin? Those that, the communities that, you know, and there are few, because most people are just opposed to change, but the few communities that have successfully grown in a positive manner are those that have a government and an administration that are open and positive about setting a vision for where the community can be going, and laying out, okay, here's what that process is going to look like. And then, you know, to the point of, like, well, we should have, you know, meetings about this and discuss what the town should, like, that's what the master plan was. And I don't think we need to keep rehashing this. I think that we need to, you know, speak differently about development. I think that we need to actually implement something from the master plan. To Steve's point, how do we change conversation? We go about and we have conversations around, here's something, here, you know, here's a proposed policy change, and let's, you know, discuss that in its entirety. Having, you know, more open forums where we speak negatively about, you know, small things, that does not seem like a positive outcome for Franklin, or you know, anything that's going to lead to something productive, either in sentiment or in actual policy changes. We've talked about this for a while. To me, this was not the policy solution that was needed. I understand. I'm not, you know, frustrated. Like, I understand where it came from, but, like, let's talk about actual policy changes and have those deliberations, you know, as opposed to, you know, whipping ourselves for, you know, a few grumbles.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Jamie?
I don't think it's a few small grumbles. This is not just a grumble or two that somebody, because something's right next to their house, they're upset. There's a systemic problem in this community around development. I agree with the master plan process. I've spoken several times. Some of your colleagues on the council, some of your colleagues on the planning board, some of your colleagues on other boards, Conservation Commission, and even just citizens, are enraged about this issue. This isn't just minor.
But we're pointing the finger in the right direction.
But I do believe, and I understand your concern, that, like, opening up more discussion, but I think to Councilor Hamlin's point a minute ago, if we're not having discussion, we're not listening. And if we just keep pretending as if, well, I get my way and I want my priority and I like things my way, we're not moving an extra inch towards other people who are incredibly upset. And the more we continue to dismiss the incredibly upset people, especially some of the comments I know we've all received, which are incredibly harsh, we're not, I don't believe, just my opinion, one man's trash, just not doing our due diligence to talk to people about things that are incredibly concerning to them. Whether it's NIMBYism alone or not, isn't really the point. People are feeling very vulnerable, they're not feeling heard, they feel like we're blowing them off, and we're not doing anything about it. And
100%.
And I think to some degree we can't, just because I may feel one way about how development should be in town, or Glenn feels one way, or Melanie feels one way, is really not the point. I think everybody on an elected body in this community at some point has to start listening to more people and having some sort of more compromised dialogue to make people feel like their voice matters within the discussion. And that's I think, the germane point of what we're trying to get at here.
I think what we should do is, we should move on to the next agenda item, because we have discussed this a lot. But maybe we can talk to the chair of the council and see if what he wants to do about this, because I know he wants to address the fact that people feel like no one is listening.
Right.
And I think we need to do that. So we'll figure that out, but we'll just move on to the next, right? Do we have to?
Well, this is listed on the agenda as a discussion. It's not listed
Okay.
as,
All right, okay.
as a
So, yeah.
bylaw
So we're gonna move on.
Well, it says discussion and recommendation.
and
And
recommendation. Then I'm gonna make a motion.
You're gonna make a motion?
I'm just gonna make a motion to move this to council for full discussion, not recommendation at this time. For further discussion and
This
not
bylaw or something else? So,
Not,
like-
not this, well, just this discussion on use variances. I'm not recommending, sending the zoning bylaw amendment 25-941 as
Yeah, so I don't think we
written.
need a vote, do we?
No.
Just as long as, I mean, you'd have to have some board consensus, so
Right.
if two of you feel like you should have a discussion and two of you don't, that's a little awkward.
I feel strongly that we're pointing the finger in the wrong direction, and it's not gonna lead to positive conversation. If the question is, how do we, talk about, development and the vision, of Franklin, great, let's have that conversation, and let's have it based around, the master plan. If the question is, let's accept the, someone's idea that the reason behind frustration in town is use variances of the zoning board, that to me seems like an unproductive starting place for a conversation about the future of Franklin.
I think we agree.
Yep.
I definitely agree with that. But I still think we need to talk about it the right way.
Yes,
How's that?
I
Is that okay? Do we all agree?
yes.
Talk about it the right way, not like negative, positive, right? Yes,
Yes.
okay. Okay, let's move on to, Corey's been waiting patiently. Oh,
Point of order, was there a motion made and then not seconded?
Well, the motion, yes, the
It was
motion.
not seconded.
was
the motion was not seconded.
Just wanted to clarify for the record.
Yep.
Yes, yes, thank you, Steve.
Amy?
Corey?
Yep.
Corey, Amy?
I invited
Thanks, Mark.
Corey here because she's been
Oh.
doing a lot of this work as well.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Amy, like,
Always a way to break the ice.
On a more positive note, FIFA World Cup 2026
Yes.
is less than 1 year out.
Cool.
Planned for June 11th, 2026 to July 19th, 2026. So we're kind of still gathering information, trying to understand what this might look like for Franklin, but I'll just give everyone a little update of what we know so far. If people don't know, the FIFA World Cup is a 104-game tournament featuring 48 teams across 16 host cities in 3 countries, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Gillette Stadium, which will be called Boston Stadium for FIFA World Cup, will host 7 different matches, including 1 quarterfinal, which will be held on Thursday, July 9th. That's in 2026. We will not know the teams who will be playing until December of this year.
After they go through their preliminary.
Yeah. And then all the other games will take place prior to that July 9th date from June 16th to the 29th. Base camps will be set up in this area 3 to 6 weeks ahead of the tournament. And we anticipate that fans, once they come here, will stay for several days, if not weeks. And they'll be looking for things to do. In speaking with FIFA, the fan zone licensing will be required for watch parties, activities, any kind of vendors. And that's gonna potentially limit our ability to do some things here in town. Because there'll be some.
No watch parties? Sorry.
It's the whole bunch.
Astronomically expensive.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
sorry.
we're
Amy.
still gathering information on that and need to get details, but this is preliminary what we've heard. The official Fan Fest will be in the city of Boston. So what?
Correct.
So we see this as an economic opportunity for the town, as an abutter to Foxborough and Gillette Stadium. We started some planning with some of our internal teams. First with the Mass 250 campaign, we thought that that would be a good way for us to just kind of get some of our teams together and work on some activities here in town. We also pulled together, you know, our department, town administration, recreation, police, fire, Corey's department, and met with Neil Doherty, who is the director of government relations of FIFA World Cup Boston, to kind of understand, you know, what we can, what we can't do, whether there's a need to utilize our playing fields, you know, what the need might be for some of the teams, you know, some of the fans. We understand from speaking with him that they do not use turf fields, which I did not know. So I don't think that there'll be a need there for them to utilize any of our fields. They do require hotels for the teams, but the teams kind of have scouts that go around and look for certain aspects, you know, different facilities within the hotels that they would be looking for. So the expectation is they'll probably be using hotels in the Providence area, Boston area, and then coming in. But it's certainly our hope that the hotels here in Franklin will be utilized for the fans and the festivities. So, we also have met with the 495 Metro West Partnership, who has been in contact regarding, you know, regional advertising and regional events that might be taking place in the area. And we've participated in a MEMA webinar, which has all of our public safety officials on it to talk about what this is gonna look like for the entire region. It's essentially like having 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot of activity, a lot of people, you know, just a lot of coordination among our, you know, public safety officials as well. We also, I believe, have, the 4th of July festivities in the city, as well as here in Franklin. The tall ships will be coming at the same time in the city of Boston. And the Highland Games will be nearby in Sudbury.
Nice.
So there's gonna be
Being Scottish, I like
a lot going on during that time. Corey has been working on, you know, really coordinating some of this with, putting an ad in the 495 Metro West Partnership booklet, just kind of, you know, what Franklin's all about, come to Franklin, some of the restaurants that we have. She's also been creating a town travel guide, and we're gonna be doing an art symposium, in September, and she's working on a pop-up art installation that we might be able to use, during that time, but then bring it into, you know, the fan festivities as well. We'll be working on some hotel outreach, very soon. Transportation planning will be needed. Again, regional, state advertising, just letting people know what we have to offer here in Franklin. Around the same time, we'll have our Porch Fest, again, 4th of July activities, farmers markets, concerts on the Common.
I'll have my porch.
So, you know, the hope is to utilize some of those things that are already happening, but maybe make them bigger, or, you know, kind of parlay some other activities around those activities as well. I don't know if Corey wants to
Do I
say
just talk into
anything.
this, or do I have to touch it?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Some other things that we were looking into, just to touch upon. I've been looking into how do we alert like Uber drivers around the area, and also doing potentially like a shuttle service areas in town, bringing people directly from the hotels to the events that we'll be hosting. Some other things that we've been looking to do is really amp up that Americana offerings that New England has. So something we've talked a lot about is a Found in Franklin market, and having like an artisanal market based off of handmade goods that are in Franklin, but also in the region area. I think that's pretty much it then,
Yeah.
thinking of what we've been going over, but yeah.
Thank you, Corey.
Any
Yeah.
questions?
Anything else?
No, I think that's really just where we are in our planning stages,
Yeah.
and we'll have more, you know.
Oh, one other thing to boot is trying to figure out marketing language that we can express what we're doing without having to pay FIFA a lot of money.
Ah.
So getting creative of how to describing our events as well
Right.
is happening.
In different languages as well?
Yes, so that's something else we talked about with Stacy too, with her international guides and
Mhm.
getting ourselves out there.
Great,
Mhm.
thank you. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. First of all, there's so many reasons for me to be excited about this, and one is as a construction worker, anytime that you say this much business, it's always good for the industry. Plus, I helped build the football stadium, so it makes me proud. My name's on the building. But as far as the town of Franklin is concerned, yeah, it's up on the top beam.
Oh, you snuck it in.
No, it's called the signature beam. Anybody who built the building
Yeah, I
on the
know,
day
I
we
know, I'm
get to
just
sign the
joking around.
signature beam.
You know
So,
that,
yeah,
right?
my name, my wife's name, and my 2 daughters' names, because my other 3 children weren't born at the time.
Excellent,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Isn't that fun?
All right.
But anyways, I was actually a young kid at the time. You didn't know me. I was 30. Yeah, I was 30 once.
Oh,
So anyways, what I'm getting at is this opens up such a huge economic opportunity for us here in the town of Franklin. I think mainly for the same reasons why Franklin's such an attractive place. We have all of the amazing amenities that we have, but we do have the 2 exits off 495, literally 2 exits down, 1 exit down from Rentham, for them to basically, splinter off and utilize us. I think that's honestly where our best benefit is the fact that we've got our 2 495 exits. It's a simple drop off, come on down, spend some time in Franklin, spend your money here.
And trains.
And trains, right, we got the 2 train stops. My question too really is, how finicky, and I'm probably you already know the answer to this question, but how finicky would they be about the licensing?
Pretty finicky.
Okay. Yeah, see?
But
Because the only reason I say that is because we, as the town of Franklin, to what extent would we be able to promote ourselves as the World Cup place to be? In other words, can we say the World Cup on our website?
at this point in time, I've said things like Soccer Earth Day and
Yeah, but that could
it's
mean
like creative problem solving. But I'm
why
sorry, I don't
nine?
have the
Play
language
soccer.
in front of me, but I do say things such as like global community events. So it's alluding hard to it, but until we get that final information from FIFA, I don't really feel comfortable jeopardizing us in any way.
I understand.
Keeping us safe, from being fined something. But we have been in discussion with them, so it's something that we'll hopefully have more clarity on soon.
And that's something that they said that they'll provide more clarity with, how we are able to kind of advertise things
Without actually using their trademark.
with abiding by, any kind
Right.
of licensing, not, hampering any licensing agreements.
I think they'd already know.
Just remember
That's what
how.
I'm
Right,
like-
that's what I'm
like,
thinking.
like,
Isn't that already in writing
Yeah.
somewhere?
Oh,
FIFA has a pretty well-established history on this
They have a
stuff.
good
This
law.
is not exactly like
The first time they've done
the
it.
type of, no,
Yeah,
it's not
really
exactly an
they go after
organization that,
people.
Negotiates.
yeah, they're,
Yeah, no.
they're pretty much top-down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anything else?
No, nothing other than, I'm alluding to kind of what you had mentioned, is if, with what we do have the ability to work off of, and I love the ideas that came up today of just kind of expanding what we have. so that it's almost like taking what would have been multiple small parties and then spreading them out so that they all overlap each other into this one big kind of event. I think that's awesome.
You nailed it. That's exactly what we're doing.
You know?
Yeah.
And just the Porch Fest, I was joking with Mel, I'll have my porch done by then. No, I'm just joking. But between the Porch Fest, the Farmers Market, the 4th of July, and, you know, the other events that we have going on, just to kind of make that a majestic advertisement so that it attracts that group of people. But how much would it be, and I know it's still a ways off, but how much of a task, how much more of a task would it be to add in aspects of our local events that would meet the culture of the teams that are playing? So in other words, if it were like Italy versus Hungary or Italy versus Spain or whatever, that we kind of accentuate some of those types of cultural aspects into our
Absolutely.
events so that they say, hey, you know, they're having a little,
Yeah.
Bring back St. Bob.
right, La Cantina's having a
Yeah.
party,
It
right?
definitely
They actually
adds
care, they
a
actually pay
layer.
attention,
Right.
right? Yeah.
It adds a layer of creative problem solving as well, not knowing who the teams
Right.
are, but I think we can do everything by building ourselves, the foundation of everything up around that.
Yeah.
And then being able to pivot specifically into these cultures. Also, not to neglect our Franklin residents as well. We plan to get everybody very excited. And this is as a former Medway soccer player, elementary soccer, bringing my old cleats out. So we really want to focus on getting all of our youth soccer players excited about this, as well as residents too. It's a way for all of us, as we all were discussing, well, all of you were discussing, of areas that we need to work together on, and this is such a great celebration of joy and fun that I think will be really healing for the town to get involved with. And I think people are going to be really excited to get involved. And we're also starting this winter with our Aretha Franklin theme. It's going to be Franklin Welcomes the World. So we're already integrating
great,
it
yeah.
into our programming. So
She's so good, you're so
That's
good.
good, yeah, yeah.
it's all our cultural
Sorry, I don't want to take
volunteers,
up any
you
more
know.
time.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I think this is really exciting. It almost feels to me like a prelude to the birthday party that's gonna come,
Yes.
right?
Right,
So
the
it's like,
birthday
so
party.
it's like we get to try out things, we get to get things.
Right.
But it's really exciting, and you guys do an incredible amount of work, I know. So I'm really, it's gonna be fun. Counselor Sheridan, do you have anything to
Just
add?
very, very, very quickly, they do stuff like all the time as far as the marketing, because like around Super Bowl time, people advertise the Super Bowl stuff without mentioning the Super Bowl, you know, they say the big game, whatever.
The big game.
Yeah, something like
right?
that, and everybody knows
There
what
we
you're
go.
talking
The
about.
big
Yeah,
game.
yeah, we know what they're talking
Yeah.
about, right?
Even if they don't sponsor the Patriots, they still talk about the big game, even though they can't mention the team, yeah.
Right. Great. Counselor Frangillo?
Nothing further. I appreciate you being proactive and thinking through this.
You'll have to give us some
excited.
soccer insight. I heard you're a fan.
Big fan. Big fan. I'm not
There's a
surprised.
few of us.
It's in his family.
There's a
Yeah,
few of us.
right.
Runs in his family.
Max has a comment or a question for, come up to an empty mic. Yes.
Can you say Gillette Stadium since that's not being used anymore?
It's actually going to be called Boston
I know,
Stadium.
but then you can say Gillette Stadium and I can
Oh,
see.
Max, loophole.
I'm sure they have
All right. I'll add that to our brainstorm.
You guys are going to
The
Gillette
other thing
Stadium.
is, I just was curious about transportation. You're gonna have a lot of people who, aren't gonna have cars or might need cars or might want to take public transportation. Is there gonna be any beefing up of buses, or can we work with the MBTA to have a reverse commute rail from Foxborough to Franklin, as opposed to just going from Boston to Foxborough or Boston to Franklin? Can we actually take the train there?
That's a really good suggestion, and I believe that Gillette and the MBTA has some sort of track that they do, like during the big concerts. So
They do.
it would
They
be
do.
something that we'll get more information once we get a little bit closer. But absolutely, beefing up transportation is key because nobody wants to be frustrated when they are trying to get somewhere. So I think by having also like shuttle services, the train Uber, Lyft, what other on-demand services that we can bring into the area will be really paramount.
Thank you.
That train actually, from what I was looking,
Thank you,
'cause
Max.
I'm actually taking the MBTA tomorrow for the first time going to work. It's gonna feel weird, because I don't usually take the train to work. But I'm curious to find out. That train actually goes from Boston to Foxborough, but also right down to Providence. So that commuter rail line that they created is a Providence, basically the Boston link right to the football stadium.
Different set of tracks.
Different tracks.
But it still goes to Foxborough nonetheless, from Providence.
Foxborough's a
So there's
special
hope.
line.
There's hope for
It's
us.
just for events.
Right, the one that veers off of our line
Stops, right,
Right.
goes to Foxborough.
stops right there.
Right, not understood, but it's,
They just don't use it.
they just don't use it? Okay.
We'll just
curious.
peer pressure them to use it for us.
We don't, we won't
But
know
it would be
yet.
keen to
Transportation.
find
We
out.
don't know yet.
We know how much the MBTA loves to talk to us up there, right, Jamie?
Okay.
They only like to talk as much as you read it, Glenn.
Well, I know.
I know. Thank you both very much.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll have an update soon, again. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to ask Kobe and his family. And his family.
Good job.
Also about GATRA, but GATRA is
GATRA.
planning ahead on.
Is GATRA planning
yeah, yeah.
to help with shuttles and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and stuff? Okay, good. Yeah, because, you know, one of the things is like shuttles from the hotels to the train to get people into Boston for the fan zones, I think is a big thing. I know you guys are already on it, so that's great. Okay, let's go to agenda item number 4, even though I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's almost my bedtime.
It's almost like a council meeting.
I know.
That's why
Remember,
we
6
had one today.
6 o'clock next week.
Thank
6
God.
o'clock.
I know,
6
I know,
o'clock.
I know. That's why we had one today.
It's still sunny out.
Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the EDC goals next and kind of what we wanna do next. I mean, we have a lot of these things that are completed. What you guys think we should prioritize for the next term maybe, if so the staff to be able to prioritize. I think maybe, I'm looking for Jamie to see if he's gonna nod at me, like, yeah, that's what we wanna do. Or like, yeah, so Jamie, take it.
I just think congratulations to all of you. I mean, we've made it through all these. I think 40R is one that's hanging out there, but I think that's not necessarily because of a lack of effort. It's just, that's a hard one to do, and there's different strategies, and, you know, there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but I think, you know, that it's okay to kind of come to a consensus that maybe there isn't a consensus. But I think the 5th one down, prioritize and implement recommendations from the HPP, Drinking for All, the master plan. You know, maybe that's your lead into what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's like more like, hey, we have approved plans. I think we still are trying to acknowledge and educate the public as to the stuff that they're dissatisfied with, how it got there. But maybe that's where the workshop discussion kind of concepts come into place. And you know, the open space plan, for all intents and purposes, is done. We just had that one little thing that the state wanted us to do, which
Right.
Brika will finish up when she gets back. But maybe that's kind of like your lead-in. I mean, now that all those plans are done, you know, what next? Especially when you have such fracture in the community. Maybe that's a good discussion to have. Maybe we can talk to the chairman about that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we need to talk about the master plan all the time.
Right.
We need to make sure that people use it. Like, when I say living, breathing document, like, I mean it. Like, the planning board uses it, the ZBA uses it, the council uses it, the staff uses it to decide what bylaws and things they work on, we work on together. And, I mean, it's a great plan. We're really lucky we have that. There's a lot of work, a lot of great people. I'm so happy that I got to know those people better, people I knew better, and new people. Everybody really cared a lot, and we have to make sure that doesn't sit on a shelf somewhere and collect dust. So that's kind of
Really well
what I just wanted to put out there on the record. There's a reason why we have it. There's a reason why we do it, and
Right.
the planning board and the ZBA should know that that's their guiding book.
Without a
Counselor
doubt.
Jones.
All I'm gonna say is exactly what you just said. And that is to reiterate the fact that we need to follow the master plan, but I think we should have, as an economic I think the Economic Development Committee / council, should be a body or create a body or an entity, that ultimately takes responsibility of making sure the master plan is executed appropriately
Okay.
in some way. You know, because it's nice for us to all sit here tonight and say, this should happen.
Yeah, well, we do it.
But
We have to do it.
without some executable, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like creating a law but no enforcement behind it.
Right,
You know,
so
it
I
doesn't
guess,
mean
I
anything.
guess what I would like is for us to think about what is in the master plan or the housing production plan that we would like to start to work on, before the end of the term, because,
I think we add
We
that,
have to keep
I
talking
think,
about
I think
things.
we add that into one of these goals.
what's this?
Right.
What is
To,
it? What are
to-
you saying?
To add in that
Prioritize?
that the Economic Development Committee
Oh,
look to look to find and prioritize sections of the master plan in order to,
okay, so this
Just-
one
yeah.
there, that's what Jamie just
Yeah.
said.
We could have more discussions here, at the
Right.
council level, both, one or the other, and kind of lay things out. Again, there's nothing zoning that can get done
Right,
because of the time crunch in the process, but,
Right.
you know, if there's other stuff that we can try to work on, we can. And we can at least,
Yeah.
and we can give you some feedback, I think, in terms of, you know, after the budget approval, you know, where we stand in terms of what staff capacity may be able to take some things on and others.
yeah, it's gonna be tough coming with so much coming up next year.
Well, I mean, but I know there are goals in the master plan that don't require the zoning process and that aren't
right,
huge lifts, and I think you had them categorized, in terms of like difficulty in some
Yes.
other ways, so I mean,
Yes,
I
we
think
did.
that might be a good discussion, you know.
Kinda go after low-lying fruit.
We got one of them done already with the aggregation, so just
I
in
know.
the neighborhood,
Eric
there
was
are,
very excited
you
about
know,
that.
there are some other things that have already moved forward, you know.
Counselor Frangillo?
Yeah, I mean, I came in prepared with my list of priorities from.
Good,
the-
shoot 'em, let's see, let's
Um,
hear.
Okay, I mean, this is loosely in order of impact. One, I really think that Franklin should be prioritizing the return of a fixed bus route. That's not something that the EDC necessarily has to take on, but I think it should stay top of the agenda, and there's two goals related to that within the master plan. I think that we have an opportunity, if we're looking for opportunities outside of zoning, I think our primary zoning opportunity is still 40R. And the master plan says adopt a 40R smart growth zoning overlay district in our downtown. A lot of the additional downtown zoning reforms about deeper examinations of setbacks and dimensional requirements and impervious coverages can come in that overlay district. The beauty of the 40R overlay district is not only is it an opportunity for us to talk about, hey, here's a way to be more aggressive in the density that we allow. In exchange, there's higher affordability requirements. And the big thing is the state then gives us money for any new development that happens in that overlay district and gives us grant opportunities on top of that. So it's a way for us to rezone an overlay district, so it's not the underlying zoning, but it would allow us to have a lot of the vision that's in the master plan in a way that's not mandatory, so it doesn't scare quite as many people, but rather is an extra opportunity, and again, just gets us more money. And it's been in the Franklin for All goal for a while now. So that to me is the big zoning. If we're looking for non-zoning opportunities, I think a conversation around revisiting the Friendly 40B policy and the inclusionary zoning bylaw within that. One of the goals in the master plan is looking at both. Right now, our inclusionary zoning is just for 80% area median income, but the master plan has a goal about having inclusionary zoning for 60 and 100 and even 120% of area median income to have those different levels of affordability. So it's not just that 80%. And we can actually, a lot of people are frustrated by what 80% means. Okay, I'm trying not to overwhelm. My list is much longer. My other non-zoning one would be to revisit parking. And there's two main parking things in the master plan that I think can be done without a zoning and could be a conversation. The number one thing that I think would transform how we talk about our downtown and really how we move forward in downtown parking is a residential parking pass. I've been talking about this for a while. I think if we establish a residential parking pass, then we can start to welcome new forms of development that don't mandate on-site parking. The other things related to parking are the reduction of parking minimums in our downtown, as well as policies that revisit encouraging shared use parking in the downtown. So I think a parking combination would be one, a 40R would be another, and a 40B policy conversation would be another. Those would be one of those three. If we could tackle that before the end of the term, or at least make pretty significant headway, I'd be satisfied.
You'll have friendly 40B real soon.
I was gonna say, I think the friendly 40 is coming
Next
up.
week, yeah.
But it's not, it doesn't, well.
I'm assuming it's not gonna have inclusionary, like any deeper inclusionary zoning, and I'm assuming it's, maybe I shouldn't make assumptions.
Well, policy, the bylaw, I mean, you gotta kind of separate
Yeah.
the two. If you need to do inclusionary, you wouldn't put it in a policy, you would just do the bylaw.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the 40R zoning is really interesting, but I don't think we have time to do an overlay because, till the end. But we can work on it, I think, but I think the parking thing, to me too, I think was
We
more.
can, I definitely need to hire Brian's replacement, probably,
Right.
at least
I
at
know.
some point. And
Yeah.
don't forget Maxine's getting cut, so we're
aware,
struggling,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
struggling to even find out who's gonna do the 40B lotteries of the existing units.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
no staff capacity to do that.
Right.
So we gotta figure out how we're doing some of those things. At least I'm just relaying that's top of mind obviously right now. So once those things kind of get settled, we can try to figure out, where the overlay district comes in. We can talk to Amy, Mark. I mean, we've had drafts in the past, so.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll try to
Yeah.
kick up some of that dust on that and see where those drafts
You
are.
can look at them at least
And
and
look
have a
at them again.
discussion.
Totally.
Okay.
The other one, for what it's worth, that I had put at the top was establishing a business improvement district in our downtown, and maybe that ends up just being the easiest for us to deliberate and talk about. Those, when you look to the downtowns that have had the most success, almost all of them had business improvement districts, and that is defining this official body, asking downtown property owners to chip in a little, creating a fund that has state matching funds toward the improvement of the downtown and advertisement of the downtown and all of that. I talked, the biggest concern there would be, stepping on the toes of the Franklin Downtown Partnership. At last check, they were open to the idea of a business improvement district and finding some synergies there, so.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, anything to add?
That's a great list.
Great list. Max?
Hello, do I need to say my address?
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay, so.
Casual tonight.
Casual tonight. So I just want to say I can concur with Kobe talking about the residential parking pass. I think that should be not too hard of a lift.
It is.
It is hard lift?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have another
Very
one.
hard lift. It's a
Very
very
hard lift?
expensive lift.
Expensive lift, okay. Well, I had one other idea that was in the master plan, and that's, could we call Peter Pan and ask if they could have a bus from Worcester to Forge Park, or from Logan Express or Providence? Because, I always go on the Facebook and I see people saying, oh, I need a shuttle to Logan. And there's not really a lot, there's the train, but then you gotta go to the Silver Line. And I think there's a sort of a need, because we're kind of right in the middle of those three towns. And if we can get some more cars off the road, we'll hear less people complaining about traffic. So.
Good luck with that.
Thank you, Max. It's a good idea.
And it is in the master plan.
It is in the master plan.
It's in the master plan, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I think we have a lot to do. with no staff capacity
Yeah.
and
Get there.
And-
no brain
Oh,
capacity
yeah.
left.
That's why I'm making a motion to adjourn, ma'am.
Oh!
Non-debatable. Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Non-debatable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Recording stopped.
Wow.
Appreciate your time.
Well, it's just when you have time.